Welcome back to Jedi Jive, friends. Number 25. It's a nice round number to hit. We're looking forward to talking to you guys. We got Jenny today. It's just me and Jenny. I think this is the first time we've ever had just me and Jenny. But we want to talk about the Loki finale, what you guys thought, what's going to happen moving forward. This is going to get ugly. Hang around. We're going live in a minute. We're live!
We're live!
What's up, guys? We're going to wait a couple minutes, let a couple people filter in here, let us know that you can hear us, let us know you can hear Jenny.
Hey, friends!
I'm pretty sure I got everybody unmuted. We should be good to go. So yeah, I would ordinarily be wanting to do a little bit of Bad Batch talk, but since Jenny is not a Bad Batcher,
we can try an experimental format after we talk about Loki. You can tell me your
talked pretty
favorite thing.
extensively about Bad Batch over on the All New Nerds right after the episode. So if you
how
go check
folks
out
in the chat are feeling, and we can try an experimental format where you just tell me everything you loved about the episode, and I see how much of it makes sense to me.
Or you could just start watching Star Wars, Jenny. That's probably.
I have started watching Star Wars. I just haven't watched the Bad Batch or the Clone Wars.
The animation is officially like it's the largest amount of content there is.
I'm sure. Well, like
stuff,
7 seasons of Clone Wars, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot. I gotta say, that particular school of animation that is used in the Clone Wars, it really
What's up, Everett?
Out. Like, it visually freaks me out. There's an uncanny valley situation for me with like animation that's like trying to look humanoid but obviously isn't. I don't know, it freaks me out a little. It like gets in like the weird place.
Yeah, well, there was that weird, like when we first met the Timekeepers in Loki, and before we as the audience knew officially that they were robots, I was kind of holding my breath because my first thought was like, this looks really weird. Is this just like, did they not pay enough for their CGI? Or
you were like, that's some bad CGI, and I was like, no, Mike, it's good CGI. They're Muppets. They're supposed to look fake.
Yeah.
We're supposed to see that it's actually not even like a good ruse. It's just
yeah. So sometimes the uncanny valley is actually part of the story itself.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. In that case, it made sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect example. It was funny. I kept thinking about how that scene was also a little bit like, and I'm sure this is like a subtle homage on purpose. It's all on purpose, the references in this show. But I was like, it reminded me a little bit of like Bill and Ted, where they go to see like the future gods of the timeline where they're worshipped, and they're in those really silly like lame shiny costumes, and it's like the three people, right? They sit on their like floating for, and I was like, this is so Bill and Ted, but also in a
That's a
It was
great way of
like
describing
the
it.
cross between Bill and Ted and Alien. If you can
Moby
imagine
Dick
that
of
cross
dopeness. What's
existed.
going on? Once you get used to the animation in Clone Wars, Dad Batch.
Dad Batch.
Dad Batch. Yeah,
Dad
that's, you know what?
Batch. That's
I'm a
accurate.
dad.
Mike
I'm
is
a dad.
Mike
I
is
cannot.
Dad Batch fan number 1.
There you go. I cannot argue with
Then
that.
it's jarring.
It's jarring to see regular animation. Actually, that's funny you say that because one of the things we were discussing over on All New Nerds was how the Bad Batch animation is like top notch, and it's like I mentioned how in the Clone Wars in the earlier seasons the animation was a little bit stiff. It wasn't necessarily the most polished, but then a little bit once you get to like season 5, they start polishing it up a little more. But Bad Batch has been like all of that, like season 5 and onward Clone Wars and then some. Like there's just
well, and
great
you would
scenery,
know, Mike, because this is
great
your
texturing,
professional
great
field.
lighting,
But I
everything.
imagine that like the technology is probably evolving
100%.
exponentially.
Yes.
Like you're getting better tools for animation all the time, right?
Yep.
I would
100%.
imagine. The one I might watch, I will say, I haven't like committed to this hardcore. I'll probably watch What If, although I'm very hesitant about that for a number of reasons, just because messing with my headcanon sounds really upsetting.
Well, now that we've just experienced this Immortus Kang situation,
right, it all
multiverse coming
that
on.
really opens up some stuff for What If. Actually, that might soothe my headcanon because I can be like, it's okay, it's just another universe.
We usually talk about this in the context of like we don't want Marvel to be. We don't want them to get too comfortable.
Right,
we don't want them to get too comfortable and well, we can do anything now. Like nothing is out of limits. Like we are excited for the potential of what comes because of that.
Right.
But we do want them to rein it in and
well,
and we keep mentioning how Kevin Feige is like we have 100% confidence.
I really do trust him implicitly. There's the twofold issue with relying too heavily on the multiverse, like the default retcon of it's just another universe, it's just another timeline, whatever. Which is one that it sort of damages your emotional investment in characters. Like we've talked a lot about seeing Tom Hiddleston play Loki for 10 years and how far that character came. And we were really invested in him because he was a consistent Loki. He was that same Loki for 10 years. But any character, you want to invest in them and you want the stakes to be real for them, not just something that like the stakes can be thrown off into another dimension and nothing really matters because there's always another version. You want to maintain your investment in the character and the stakes of the story. But the other thing for me is that sort of the really remarkable thing about the MCU that has kept us coming back. I mean, obviously like good storytelling, great actors, good, like all the things that like make a movie good, but the real thing that sets it apart from all other franchises in the SFF genre is that it has managed to make these things coherent. We were mentioning how like Loki had a throwaway line like years ago about Dreykov's daughter.
Yeah.
That like I wouldn't even have remembered he said that if people on the internet hadn't pointed it out, because it really was a throwaway line, just like Loki saying some bullshit at the time. And now there's a whole movie about it in 2021. And there's so many of that. Like I did the full rewatch of the entire MCU and all the sort of non-Netflix. I've seen all the Netflix shows. I didn't rewatch all the Netflix shows, but I rewatched Agent Carter and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Runaways and Cloak and Dagger. I did like a full rewatch of those and like all 23 movies before WandaVision started. And it was amazing how many of those little things I found where I was like, oh my God, that refers to a thing that happened like 10 years later.
Yeah, the thing is, though, is that's most likely they're looking back in terms of, like, I don't think they put that little throwaway line in there 10 years ago being like, we're specifically going to address this 10 years from now.
They did pay attention like long enough to, they're still cognizant of those things. And so I think that's really amazing that they have created a contiguous universe, a universe 100%. That does tie together. So it's like this amazing Rube Goldberg mechanism that that the MCU is, and I don't want to damage that by like it's not really connected. It's all so again. I trust Feige. Yeah. I'm excited to see the possibilities of the multiverse. I just don't want it.
Yeah. Couple of comments here. Robert Young says, you think it is when He Who Remains dies, that is the moment Wanda hears her kids in another universe? That's a really interesting,
that's an interesting
theory.
Question.
We were having a little bit of a debate about like when exactly things are falling on the original timeline, I guess it is now.
Well, right,
because we've had 3 shows and
this begins during Endgame, so it has to be at least starting earlier.
Similar time as WandaVision though, because we know WandaVision is like a couple weeks after. At the most.
Right. Well, Loki goes into the Tesseract during the events of
Yeah.
Endgame, and WandaVision takes place probably like shortly
But
thereafter,
also
but a
like
little bit of
Loki,
time
like a lot of the
thereafter.
time has been spent in the TVA, which is this like out of time, like
Right,
time doesn't
exactly.
exist. So it's hard to even know like how much time is passing, or if time is even passing at all, or they,
Well,
they
and the
could
big
be.
question that I kind of doubt they're going to address, because WandaVision and Falcon were projects that really did stand on their own. We still think Falcon and Winter Soldier potentially might have a season 2. We don't know. But in and of itself, season 1 was self-contained, and WandaVision was supposed to be a one and done. So the question of like, does this multiverse affect other things that we've already seen happening on the timeline? Or like Spider-Man, like Far From Home, for instance, which takes
Yeah.
place afterwards. Like, did those happen on the sacred timeline before, whatever before means, like before Loki and Sylvie messed with it, or is it after? Like, are things that we've already seen now subject to retconning because the timeline's been blown open? I kind of feel like they won't mess with that, because that's kind of like your head's gonna explode if you even try to
Yeah.
consider. That's
Yeah.
a little bit too,
Like we don't
even
want to
for
be going
me,
back and
like,
messing with like Thanos and Infinity Stones and like trying
exact,
to
like, yeah, we
rearrange
already
all of
answered
that
that question.
again.
We're in a new phase of
Because
this
even remember, do you
universe
remember
now.
the discussion between Paul Bettany between Vision and oh, why is her name eluding me right now?
Agatha?
No, in the van in the
Oh, Kat Dennings! Kat
Kat
Dennings!
Dennings. Thank you. I don't know.
Darcy!
Darcy, thank you. Yeah, do you
Yes.
remember him being like, yeah, like I died and then I died again and then I came
Yeah.
back and then I died, and it's just this kind of like, all right, like he's already died like 3 times now. It's
Other thing that goes on
you
with Phil
can't like tread
Coulson.
over the same thing over and over
There was a
again.
line in the final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think it was, or no, was it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or was it, I can't even remember which property it was in now, but at some point fairly recently, Phil Coulson said, dying's kind of my superpower.
Yeah.
Because he's also died like technically like 3 or 4, I can't even count, like he's died several times at this point, and he's
Yeah.
back too.
All right.
But
So
like the LMD version of him is coming back.
Angel Lopez, if Kang wasn't the next big bad, which villain would you guys have loved to see? We kind of talked about it a little bit because before we knew that it was going to be Immortus, He Who Remains, Kang, whatever you want to call him right now.
I think they've conflated
Jonathan
all of
Majors.
the above into like variants of the same
but
entity.
we had kind of gone over the like, oh, who are the? I mean, we know certain villains are coming, like Doctor Doom, but we know that that's probably like way down the road.
And possibly that's like just a Fantastic Four thing, even maybe, or
But we had.
Levi's in the chat, Mike. Levi's ready to.
Oh, okay,
on.
Levi's
Throw
coming.
Him a link. Yeah.
One sec, buddy. I'll throw you the link.
My computer was updating. Sounds like a metaphor for, I don't know, like all the things we're talking about right now. So that's actually perfect. I'm gonna keep talking about Angel Lopez's question. It's funny, we talked about this, and I think as far as this particular show goes, Levi made a really funny comment that of like all the on our Discord, he made a really funny comment that of all the many possibilities we've discussed, it was D, all of the above, which made us laugh hysterically because it kind of was. We talked about it being Kang. We talked about Loki coming face to face with himself, which like with the fight between him and Sylvie, he quite literally did. We talked about Miss Minutes being there like a butler, which she was. It was kind of like all of the things we predicted. And this show consistently, if anything has been consistent about this show, it has been its attempt to do the most. They're just like, let's do all the things. Loki is like, let's just throw all the noodle at the wall and see what sticks and then use all of it. So we kind of got a little of everything. And I feel like even if it had just been like an empty castle, or even if it had just been like Loki forced to make the decision that he was forced to make anyway, but without the involvement of Kang, narratively it all would have made sense.
Yeah.
They chose in this instance to bring Kang in now, and we know he's about to be a big part of the MCU in the bigger picture. So they chose to bring him in at this moment. But I think like any aspect of what happened could have stood on its own and still been like a narratively satisfying ending for me.
That's true. Yeah.
Levi!
Hey,
what's up, buddy?
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Wouldn't miss this for the world, except if my computer shut off.
It's all good. We were actually, this is the first time Jenny and I were just us on the live. So
yeah.
Well, I can leave. I can go.
Yeah, thanks for interrupting.
Yeah, I know, it was really nice for a minute there.
I was mentioning, Levi, that you and I talked pretty not extensively, but we went over our thoughts on the Bad Batch in the All New Nerds live right after the show. So if you guys haven't checked out the All New Nerds live from the other night after the Bad Batch, then go check that out. like right now, sorry, Jenny, I'm gonna talk about Bad Batch real quick because
Yeah,
I want to get it out of the way, and we'll come back to Loki.
And then we'll jam on Loki.
We could. There's a lot to talk about with Loki, but
yeah.
So many. So many. We were literally just before you hopped on talking about your comment D.
Well, actually, you know what? We can wait. Well, you know what? Screw that. Let's wait. Let's keep talking about Loki since we're on the topic and people are asking questions about
Angel
Loki.
Lopez had said, like, if it wasn't Kang, what would you have liked to see as a big bad? And my reaction is that of all the many things that happened in the Citadel in this episode, you could have taken like any element of what happened and it could have stood on its own and still been like a narratively satisfying conclusion. And they kind of, as Loki is wont to do, the show is constantly doing all the things all at once. And so they did give us D all of it, which was really funny, but they really did. But I was like, all of those disparate elements that came together all made sense. Like they all felt justifiable for me.
Yeah. So, Jenny, I had asked you yesterday if you had read any of the commentary on our reaction. And you were like, no, I like barely ever read the comments.
I glanced, and it wasn't as dramatic as you were making anything.
Well, no, I mean, let me put it this way. Like, our Jedi Jive consistently gets about like 98, 99, maybe even 100% on the likes.
Right.
And this was definitely one of those videos where it was like noticeably a lot more dislikes than usual. And there were people leaving comments that it seemed like they were misinterpreting how you were interpreting
probably
the Sylvie situation.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily like.
But it seems like some of the biggest beef is with the suggesting that having this one sacred timeline with Kang in charge, and you made some comment about, oh well, it's great, but it's genocide for everyone else. It's great for him, but all of the timelines that they have to prune, like you were labeling that as genocide. But then
it is.
Then when it became
is genocide.
Then like right after that, when it became obvious that or not obvious, but he revealed, oh, but if you kill me right now, it'll be infinite versions of me, and it'll be like, and we were like, multiverse, yeah, bring it on, and I think a lot of people were like, wait a minute, you just guys contradicted yourselves. Like,
and Amanda's saying in the comment, could there be more than just those two choices? And like, yes Amanda, yes. So here's my like concise reaction to that. One is that a lot of people have made the analogy to like what's happening in Libya or Syria, where you have like the abrupt deposition of a dictator, and then there's a power vacuum, and more bad things come in place because there's not an adequate plan to rebuild. As opposed, say, to what like happened in Germany after World War II, for example, where there was like a very elaborate plan and we stuck around for a long time and like made sure that they established still there.
Oh yeah.
So they were saying, well, sure, Kang, he who remains, whatever, this version is bad, but like other bad stuff is going to happen to people if you don't come up with a plan first. And so I have several reactions to that. The most basic is that they had no reason to believe him that was going to happen. Based on his track record, Boy Who Cried Wolf, it's actually the logical conclusion to believe that literally everything he says is a lie, because everything until this point has been a lie.
Yeah. Well, also, let me interject really quick to say that we as the audience also have the advantage of knowing like Kang is coming and that like what he's saying is mostly true, and that like
they're making choices.
We have more reason to trust what he's saying than they do.
Exactly.
We know
so they have no reason to believe a word out of his mouth based on what has happened to them in their lives and so far in the show. So he could just be making it all up, and that's a reasonable conclusion for Sylvie, Loki, whoever to draw. What they do know for sure, the information that they have that they are 100% sure of, is that genocide is occurring, is that innocent people are being indiscriminately pruned, people who have done nothing. They also know the other thing they absolutely, yes, we have more info than they did, Amanda, exactly. But the other thing they absolutely know is that the TVA is being run as a fascist state. There's a lack of transparency. It's a culture of lies, fear, and manipulation. It's Big Brother. It's Mussolini. I mean, they literally, everything that they do know for sure leads them to distrust this guy. So I think although chaos may come from her decision and what happens might not be what she expected, I still maintain that she made the best decision she could with the information she had available. I'm also not sure that the appearance of a bunch of bad Kangs is enough to justify any of this. I think Amanda's right that there are possibly more than two choices. There's more than just abject chaos forever or fascist rule forever. I think that that's
Yeah.
that's a ridiculous dichotomy that we
Well,
should
and
also-
it was.
abide
yeah.
by.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say I've also mentioned that like Immortus or He Who Remains, if he's semi-benevolent in his desire to like reduce chaos, or like he may not be a good guy, but if we're viewing him as like, oh, that's the best as Kang is gonna get, like
That he's gonna
theoretically,
get.
you know, half of the Kangs of the infinite Kangs that get created are gonna be semi-benevolent or, you know,
Well,
potentially
no,
good.
I
or,
think that what he's saying, and he says it in the episode about the reincarnation thing, is that eventually one of the Kangs
yeah.
will end up here again, because
Right.
he's, you know.
But he
knows what he's
refers to
doing.
it as I. He's like, I'll just end up right back here. So like that's why I think it's not out of bounds to like refer to this character as Kang, even though like that's another thing in the comments is that a million people are like, this actually isn't Kang.
It's
This
He
is
Who
Immortus.
Remains.
This
We
is
know
He
that
Who
he's
Remains.
cast
It's like
as
we
Kang,
know.
Ant-Man, and various
Just
versions
easier
of
to
him.
refer
It's
to
just
him.
easier to refer to him this way. It's one short name.
Technically,
Like,
he's the most similar to Immortus, but
just the way that
It's like,
there's
yeah.
like Loki and Sylvie and like all of these others that have different names, you know, we're calling him Kang because we know that's a character he's been cast as, and they're obviously conflating Immortus, He Who Remains, Kang into one character as variants, single entity. But I think if we call him Kang, it's easier and everybody knows who we're referring to.
well, okay.
We're-
to take it, you're on that point. We're all agreed. It's just easiest to say that. To take it back to the choice. I mean, obviously, it was a lose-lose situation, right? But there was a third option presented in the episode. When Mobius is talking to Renslayer, he's like, "We can turn this into something, a force for good, and you still can do that." Like theoretically, you could have a TVA where only timelines where it's like just mass chaos and death are pruned. Like the one I gave an example on our live the other day. Like if Dormammu got what he
Mhm.
wanted, and like Doctor
Right.
Strange, and everyone got
Mhm.
turned into like a soulless, husk slave. Like that's not good for anybody. And maybe they prune that one, you know.
Yeah.
So like you could have a TVA theoretically where only those sort of just realities of just pure death and destruction get pruned, and people can just live their
right, and then there are
multiversal lives.
still ethical questions to answer. These are things
Oh, hey,
that
Mandy.
we face in these are things that we face in the real world. Like, do you bomb that site or not, or is there going to be collateral damage? Like, these are real world questions that we face, sort of ethical questions. And you know, potentially that is something with Mobius that could still happen. They could still do that. I question that from a historical perspective. Reforming corrupt institutions that are fundamentally corrupt doesn't usually go well. However, in the scope of this show, potentially that's something that could still happen.
I'm just saying that's what was presented in the episode. He
It's
offers
presented.
that.
I don't think a lot of people, like in the comments and on the internet and elsewhere, have been like, Loki was right. They should have waited to see what happened. And I'm not sure that's true. Wait to see what happens.
Well,
or
I think
wait until
Loki-
we're sure what's going on is
Loki was right in the sense that he was just asking for them to talk about it for a second.
Mhm.
And,
sure,
and,
okay.
and
But the
she just
wait and see what's
went
going
for
on is also how we ended up with like Japanese Americans in concentration camps in America during World War II. It was like, we have to put this to the side until we can figure out what's going on, and we committed an atrocity. And there's a lot of, not just Japanese internment camps, but there's a lot of precedent for that. Like, let's just set this aside until we figure out what's going on is a phrase with some very bad historical antecedents. And I'm like, if any genocide continues happening in the meantime, you don't get to, it's that, you know, it's that idea that like you can't set the conditions for someone else's freedom who gave you that right. So it's just, I understand, like, let's have a conversation right now in the moment. Maybe that would have been warranted, but like let's just wait until we figure out what's going on feels like a very weighty ask for me that I would not be okay with.
I also have
personally.
I tend to subscribe to the idea that like chaos and order are two sides of the same coin, right?
Jeff Goldblum over here.
Say again?
I said Jeff Goldblum over here.
yeah.
Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Ian Malcolm.
Yeah. Chaotician. Chaotician.
Chaotician.
you guys
Chaotician.
dig up dinosaurs?
Mine's way.
You can build a baby dinosaur.
Dino DNA.
But yeah, the chaos and order being opposite sides of the same coin, and that like with the sacred timeline with one Kang in charge, the genocide is literally up to this one guy, as opposed to like, oh, well, yeah, now we're going to have infinite universes with like infinitely more genocide. How is that better? It's not that it's better. It's that like that chaos isn't necessarily a bad thing, and that like that's the natural state of things.
Thank you. I also find it very interesting that he chose his fake little Muppet dictators. He chose to have 3 of them. He created a committee. But he's not actually ruling by committee.
Well, now there's just one Kang statue in the TVA.
Right, but what I'm saying is this guy who has at least claims that he's acting benevolently or acting for the greater good, he's ruling by fiat.
Well, I think the implication is that they were real, because you see the statues in the thing, and one of them, there's 4, but one of them is broken on the ground. And I thought the implication there was like he was one of them. Yeah, and he destroyed his own image, and
that's exactly how I perceive it.
And used the other 3 as like a front after he took them out.
I agree with you about that, but the fact remains that he's a single entity ruling by fiat and pretending to rule by committee.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, like, I'm just begging the question, like, were the timekeepers ever real?
The 4th was probably him.
Were the timekeepers ever real at one point?
And then he just recreated them for
recreated for his show purposes.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I also keep thinking about when they came in to the Citadel, or when they first revealed him in that little elevator, he was eating an apple. It's very easy when it's an apple to go to Adam and Eve and think, of the Citadel or the sacred timeline itself as the walled fortress.
I go to Ocean's 11.
Of all places. But like it's
Brad
a walled
Pitt.
fortress that's now been breached by chaos. That's a very superficial metaphor.
Welcome, Brent. What's up, man?
But I think actually the more relevant apple, perhaps in this case, is the apple of discord.
Yeah,
this
100%.
was a cool, especially because it was like a green apple or like a yellow apple that he was eating. Apple of discord is a golden apple that the Greek goddess of chaos, the Greek goddess of strife, threw over a wall into the middle of a god's wedding party. This led to a sort of who's the fairest of them all vanity contest between, like a silly beauty contest between 3.
A second place gets $10.
Right? But it was a stupid beauty contest between 3 beautiful goddesses, and this resulted very directly in the Trojan War. It's a war between humans and gods where thousands of people died. A historic city was razed to the ground. There's a big wooden horse, a doomed prophetess. We still read about it today. So the fact that this, and I referred several times to the character that Jonathan Majors presented in this scene as impish and puckish, and he was mischievous. He was like a little leprechaun. The fact that this impish, puckish, elfin character has this apple of discord, like he's sowing chaos. In some sense, this is exciting to him, like not knowing what might happen. The chaos is exciting to him. And there's something very nefarious about that, about seeing all of, not just humanity, all of existence, all life as a science experiment, as like, ooh, this is fun. Let's like throw them into the rat maze together and see what happens.
That's funny though, because he mentioned
moral vacuity, right?
The Kang variant, who mentioned the original Kang being, he said that he was a scientist.
Right. He's like a Reed Richards descendant and a Reed Richards type figure.
So
right?
like that actually it is kind of like a science experiment. He is, just using his intelligence to experiment and to, right?
We've talked a lot about bioethics in this show, and again, this is a very real world problem. This is something that like actual scientists doing cutting edge research of all different types have to think about, whether it's like, is it ethical to experiment on animals, or whether it's like cloning? What are the implications of that? We keep coming back to Jurassic Park, which is such a weird thing, but there's that line in Jurassic Park where Ian Malcolm, where Jeff Goldblum says, your scientists were so obsessed with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to consider whether they should.
They didn't stop to think they should.
So there is that bioethical issue where he's just kind of like, let me see if I can. Let me see what I can do. There is this sort of idea of treating actual life, all life, the entire universe, as a science experiment. And to me, there is like an ethical shortcoming there. There is some sort, I mean, like, again, even having seen what happened, I'm still not convinced that what she did is a bad thing. I'm not convinced chaos
Amanda
is a bad
says
thing.
I love the idea of the apple of discord because it seemed like Kang was trying to incite Sylvie to kill him. 100%. And you could tell like he was standing there literally giggling and not trying to defend himself while she was like shoving his desk aside and like about to like run him through. Like he was totally cool with it.
See you soon. Wink.
Yeah. See you soon. By the way, like, shout out to Jonathan Majors. He had a lot of words to say. He had like a 20-minute monologue. Basically.
He had like 75% of the lines of the episode.
And that was a very static episode, and he made it fun, and like I really enjoyed his performance and enjoyed his
which is really interesting because we had like. Hadn't we kind of like predicted that like, oh, if we get Kang at all, it'll just be like a tease.
Yes.
And like, not only did we get like, you know, a Kang variant, but he was like the premier character of the episode. Amanda, thank you so much for
Amanda.
Love you. With the $5 super chat. Kang did seem so thrilled to watch Sylvie and Loki fight and not know what was going to happen, but didn't care about the result, just the experiment. And also
the show. It was like
I noticed
match,
when they had their little, we can talk about the kiss situation too later if you want briefly. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but yeah, when they first kiss, you can see he who remains like sitting there, just kind of like smiling, like enjoying the show. Yeah.
100%. But yeah, I think he did a great job, and he made me really excited to see more of that character because he just seemed to be making a meal of it. He was having so much.
Imagine what's going to happen with that, with him moving forward now, especially since Kang is we could theoretically be meeting dozens of different Kangs, right?
Exactly.
He's going to be playing many.
It's interesting because, you know, obviously Lovecraft Country, which is a great show. I'm sad it was canceled. I recommend everyone watch Lovecraft Country, where you can see Jonathan Majors and Wunmi Masaku.
This is actually an interesting conversation about the whole is there going to be like a Kang Prime? Like, is there going to be a main evil Kang? We're like, oh, he's the like most powerful Kang.
I think this is probably him, considering that he's the first one we met, so he's the one we've attached to.
I think he was Kang Prime, but I know what you're saying now, Mike. And I think Kang the
Conqueror. Like so, like when we think about like, you know how we've gotten these like classic costumes and a lot, like we've got the Scarlet Witch and Vision and their classic Halloween costumes.
It's the Conqueror, and he's wearing.
We got the classic Loki costume in this one. Yeah, like are we gonna get the classic?
The statue has him in his
helmet with like
in the Conqueror outfit. So I imagine that's the Kang.
We'll see. That's. I mean, so what I was gonna say about that is I haven't seen too much of his work beyond this and Lovecraft Country in both, which I think he's wonderful. But the question when you're introducing somebody with variants is always like, does that actor have the chops really to do that? The ultimate example is Tatiana Maslany, who's joining us as She-Hulk soon, who literally played more than 30 characters. In Orphan Black.
And we always talk about this regarding D. Bradley Baker in the Clone Wars and now Bad Batch, how he's got a voice clones.
He's a legendary voice actor. He's like one of the most famous voice actors out there. But like beyond just doing voices, like being on screen as a physical presence and having the ability to play distinct characters who, if necessary, not only have chemistry with other actors but with each other, is a very specific skill. And like the best I've ever seen is Tatiana Maslany playing like more than 30 clones. But it's going to be really interesting to see this actor who we know off the bat is going to be playing variants. We actually, like, one of the hot topics of like the Bad Batch situation right now is this new character called Hauser, who is a clone. And he's extremely interesting character, really cool looking character. Everybody like fell in love with him instantly, but like
Mike especially.
But with D. Bradley Baker, like the idea of like clones who are like literally genetically like essentially identical, and their voices are the same, but they have individualistic personalities. So he has to like, you know, his voice is the same.
Nature nurture thing. Yeah, he's got to differentiate them.
The character, that lives. To me is the real talent right there. Is the
so good. Yeah, he's amazing.
So like otherwise people wouldn't necessarily just be like, oh, Hauser. They, you know, it's like, no, it's the fact that he has this really unique individual personality about him that makes him really interesting.
To circle back to Loki.
Yes.
We're talking about the fight, which I think is the best fight in the show.
Great, Loki, good fight choreography.
Levi, I pointed. Really I called you Loki, bro.
I feel like that's a compliment.
We pointed out that yes, this was the best fight, but not on its like merit of standing. The other fights were kind of lackluster. That's why this one, So it was a good fight,
this wasn't necessarily an action show the way that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was. Like the fight choreography and stunt choreography and special effects in Falcon and the Winter Soldier were off the handle because that's an action show. That's like the nature of the show.
The
action show.
Falcon digging his
This was
wings into the
like-
ground, fighting.
Oh my god, that
US
opening
agent.
flight
So
sequence with what's his face, the Algerian
Oh yeah,
not Luke,
Batroc.
not
The
yeah,
opening
Batroc, yeah.
in
Batroc.
flight, the aerial fight sequence.
I was
in
gonna
that
say
show
Luc
was
Besson.
crazy.
I was like, it's not.
yeah.
Not Luc
I was
Besson
like,
at all.
not Luc Besson.
George St. Pierre.
George St.
But,
Pierre is the
Yeah,
name of
yeah.
the guy.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
But like this was like a philosophical show about identity and time travel. It wasn't at its fundamental core an action show, but that particular fight
Yeah.
was like a badass.
And Loki isn't necessarily
fight
like known for
choreography.
like, you know, the hand-to-hand combat skills as much
Yeah,
as
he's
he
a
is the
trickster.
magic and the deception. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's although we do see like some evidence of him being like perfectly competent in a hand-to-hand fight.
When
You
he
know,
like
because
pops back in and
He
her
doesn't
blade
use
is at his
projectile
neck,
weapons. He uses
so good.
literal knives, which
Yeah,
requires
Amanda's pointing out that
proximity and
this
like
had real emotional stakes too. I agree, Amanda. I mean, the moment when he put himself in front of her sword was like a sincerely.
I had a question
emotional
about that
moment.
because it really seems like she was like taking the death blow swing at Kang there, and then like he just kind of like stepped in front of the sword and then it stopped. Like I couldn't tell if it was implying that like she stopped short in order not to kill him, or if like he literally stopped her sword with his body. Like
I don't think it's important, but I think
don't
you
think
take
it
that
matters.
either way. I think
Okay.
they're both powerful enough to do either
I
one.
agree with Levi on that.
Okay, so maybe he just like froze her, like he
But let's
stopped it.
let's do talk about the kiss, because
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that there's this whole discussion about like the ethics of it when it's so interesting to me that like we as a society will never have this issue. Like never ever will we ever interact and have to deal with this moral issue of another version of ourselves. So we're
I
trying
don't know.
to
I wouldn't say
so
that.
we're trying to apply
I mean,
like our
we
own
can clone shit. We might.
I guess,
don't
but
know.
like this is like a different version of you from another reality. Like we're trying to put our own ethics onto this thing that is like so utterly impossible for any of
Yeah.
us to comprehend, and it's just so funny to me because like
I
this
agree
different
with
version
you in
of him with a
principle,
new
but there
identity.
is something
It's like,
taboo about
what
it.
does it
Like
mean?
they know there's something taboo about it, or they wouldn't be giving it to
Yeah.
us. Like the fact that the entire internet is discussing whether or not it's taboo means that there is something that
It's just narcissism.
Yeah.
Like
sure. I
ultimately.
mean, yes, that is a well taken point about the narcissism,
but it's
there
layered
is something
narcissism
that
because he's learning
seems
to love
be-
himself, and he's
it
like
seems to be like a
opening up.
universally recognized and felt taboo. There's something not quite right about it. It's not technically incest. It's not technically like
exactly. I don't
any
think
of
it's
these
technically
things,
anything because we
but,
don't know.
Like it is. It's a new thing, but there is
Like-
still something that feels.
I mean,
taboo,
let's be honest. Who
like
wouldn't
a
at least try to
Freudian
make out with
sense.
themselves once if they had the opportunity, just to like see? Like, I'm curious. Am I any good at this? But it helps though that it helps that they're, you know, she's a girl, he's a boy. They look different. They're, you know, they're
Well,
they're-
her whole thing is like, I'm different from you. I have my own identity.
that
On top
helps.
of
If it
That
was
definitely
literally Tom
helps. Like,
Hiddleston
she's
making out with Tom
one-
Hiddleston, that would be
Hey, people would
definitely
be there
weird.
for that, okay?
They would
I
be
think, like,
too.
People would be there for it, but we would understand what the taboo is about that. And so there is,
Yes.
I mean, again, in that Freudian sense, there is something that, for whatever reason, it's probably a genetic predisposition to protect ourselves from inbreeding. We have taboos that are relatively universal about incest and certain things, and there is something about that makes a lot of people, myself included, feel deeply uncomfortable. I hated it.
Yeah.
Either
Well,
way,
You
I
know,
think-
she was
I think they
trying to
handled
achieve
it.
something in that moment, but
exactly. I think they handled it the absolute best way they could. Where, like, I think there is something to their romance, but it has a lot to do with the main themes of the show of Loki coming to like understand that he doesn't have to be alone. He can offer more to the world than just pain and suffering. Like he can actually care for someone, even if he has to learn first to care for himself. But Sylvie hasn't gone through that arc yet, you know.
Yeah.
So she uses that feeling to manipulate him, and like maybe there was some real emotion there, but even then, she was still using that moment to get him out of the
100%.
way, so she could attain her like single-minded, my entire life I need revenge goal, which obviously, like this in principle, is never really a good thing. Like when you ignore everything else and just go for revenge, and she clearly is just like, you're not really fulfilled. Like she stabs him, he says, "See you soon," and she's like,
Mhm.
"Huh."
yeah.
Like you feel fulfilled, maybe not. So
I agree with everything you're
like-
saying. I think though that it's kind of like a lie wrapped in the truth. Very similar to me for me to that scene where Loki was in the time loop in like the time prison. and he had to get Lady Sif to stop kicking him in the nuts. And he says this incredibly sincere thing, all of which happens to be true, about how, you know, he hurts people because he hates himself and he's a piece of shit and he's going to die alone. And there is actually a sacrifice involved in giving voice to that, because by voicing it, you're admitting it to yourself, more importantly than admitting it to anybody else. But at the same time, the ultimate objective was, I have a thing to get done here. I need to get her to stop kicking me in the nuts to get the thing done. So I'm going to say whatever I need to say to get her to stop kicking me in the nuts.
I don't know.
So
I
there
do
was
think
like
that,
a larger objective, but he had to say something that actually came from a place of truth to
I feel
achieve
like
it.
especially by the end, Loki was being 100% genuine. Like when he's just crying through the portal, like I feel like Loki was telling the truth.
I
He said he
agree.
didn't
So
want
I
him
mean,
the throne.
her goal was like, I have to distract him so I can get him out of my way and achieve, like, her goal is, her priority is always the mission.
I don't think that I
Better
don't
life
think
on-
that
but I also think that
precluded her genuine feeling.
No,
in the
that's what I'm
moment, though.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
He
that's what
said
I'm saying as
something
well. It's like it's a nice
extremely
mix.
sincere. He
That's
said something
why-
like undeniably heartfelt and sincere to her, and
Yeah.
I think she absorbed that energy. She returned the heartfelt gesture with something heartfelt, but she always had her eye on the prize at the same time.
She said,
So
and the
it's-
line was,
yeah.
"I'm not you."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, isn't that what she said to him? And what she pushed him through? Like, but I'm
Her
not
priority is still the mission, is still the thing. That
Yeah.
she
you. Oh,
was
I didn't
fighting
even
for,
think
so
about.
she was, like,
I didn't even
6
think
years
about
old.
that line. Think about that. He says like, all I need to care about is you. But
She
she,
said,
like,
I just want you to be okay.
I
I just want you to
be okay.
I want
Yeah.
you to be okay. But technically, because they're the same, she says, "But I'm not you." Oh, that's such a good line. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
That's good.
she's kind of insulting him there. That's like a veil.
Yeah, but I'm not you. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
She had also just
That's good.
insulted him in the exact same way, like previously in the conversation, where he was like, "So that's what you think of me?" Because she was basically like, "Yeah, no, you're Loki. Like how can I trust you right now?" And he was like, "After all this time, like you still like don't trust me." But yeah, I think I've pointed this out too before, though, that
you can't trust and I can't be trusted.
yeah.
Very beautiful writing, but like a very revealing line about how both of them in their own ways still have a lot of growing left to do. And unfortunately, there's a chaotic situation. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a chaotic situation that they're going to have to make decisions about this minute, unfortunately. But they both still have a long way. There's a lot more character that we can get out of both of those.
Yeah. We've mentioned this before too, but also like Tom Hiddleston and Loki is a character we've had for 10 years, and he's one of the only ones that hasn't had a romantic. This was his first romantic moment.
Yeah.
This was his first like love moment in 10 years. So like that, you have to at least, whether you think it's gross or not, like you have to at least be happy for him in that regard, and that like he finally has somebody to love.
They finally threw him a bone.
That
Like,
isn't just
I
like, you know,
don't
family
know.
love, like for his brother or his
But even
father
then,
or his mother.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
himself, and it's like this layered study of the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not just like,
Could
oh,
not
he has.
agree
It's
more.
not just like, oh, he has a love interest. Like, there's a reason why it's Sylvie.
Yeah.
You know, like let's talk
This-
about Miss Minutes really quick too, because
yeah.
he
Very
or
strong.
you know, I don't know, I'm just gonna keep saying Kang because it's just easier.
It's just
than-
easier. We know who we're talking.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. Is a lot of people thought we were using the term Kang like in conversation just to like assimilate all of his future storylines into like our current conversation, not because we think this is currently Kang. But he mentioned Miss Minutes being like, "Oh, is she still out there? Is she still, you know, saying whatever?" So it seemed like he was like slightly separate from her. Not like it didn't seem like she was his employee in that way. It seemed like he was kind of like he was asking about her. Like, "Oh, what was the question he asked?"
Oh. Does she still call me that?
Yeah. Which is
Oh,
like,
he who remains.
oh, that's
she
what he
referred-
said. Yeah.
Right.
And it was just,
So she's-
I don't think she would call him that to his
So
face.
is he? Is
Johnny's
this Johnny?
here.
Hey,
Johnny, he made it out of the woods alive.
Yeah, I did. Hello.
Did you
How's
do a tick
everybody?
check?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm all
ticks are
set.
crazy this year.
You know.
Everybody, if you're in the woods or the grass,
Lyme's disease is no joke.
it is not a
No.
joke.
It's not.
She's
It's
great. I knew it was
awful.
going to be her. I called it like 2 weeks ago that this bitch was going to be the butler coming into
Yeah.
this castle. I knew this was going to be her. She is the most
Oh.
efficient secretary. She's an AI of some kind, like a very
AI.
advanced
So,
AI.
do you
right?
think- do
But
we
Did you guys
think
like that
she's-
jump scare?
Yes.
Absolutely. I loved her. I
Yeah.
feel like how her
That was
eyes
fu-
became
that was
sinister
hilarious.
at Red
Yeah.
Layer.
Scared
She
me.
was like, he doesn't
It
want you to
didn't-
have
it didn't scare me
those
either.
files. Like she became
Like,
so
Everyone was
nefarious.
talking about this jump scare afterwards. I was like, was there a jump scare? And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Kind
guess there-
of.
I was like,
Yeah.
I know. That's why I'm saying it. Yeah, I didn't really.
To me though, there's still some unanswered questions with her because she has like
Season 2.
she has a relationship with Renslayer that is still a little bit unrevealed. She
Well,
clearly has a relationship.
She has a
with
relationship
Kang.
with Kang.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when Renslayer asked for the files, not only is, you know, Miss Minutes clearly stalling, but
Yeah.
she goes to
She's-
talk to Kang,
Right,
and
she's
then
loyal to
Kang gives her something to give to Renslayer.
Somebody actually asked a question at the beginning of.
Yeah, Brent's saying this is like future technology. It's like the 31st century version of an AI, right? That
Yeah,
has
and I take it that everything.
different clearances for
I
different
take it.
people at the TVA.
I take it that everything in the TVA was invented by Kang.
Yeah.
Was invented by which is interesting.
Oh yeah, so it was Everett Brown. I don't know if you're still here, but he says, "What were you guys' thoughts on the files Renslayer got and where she's headed?"
She was like,
because
I'm
she said she was looking for free
will.
will. Yeah.
Probably
Right.
to her
So-
her future future ex-boyfriend. One of
Yeah.
Future ex-boyfriend sounds like a bubble pop song from the 90s.
yeah, it's my band.
I don't know because when they took her to like the school in 2018 where Renslayer was like the
That's
principal
one of
or
the
whatever.
variants, though. That
Yeah.
variant of Renslayer, like the name on the wall said like
It said something
Ramona
else.
yeah.
Toussaint or whatever. Like that
In
is
the
a version.
comics, that is a
That is a
variant.
version of her who in the comics like hides with Kang, a version of Kang in like 1930, like in a timeline. And so like that
Yay,
version
so
of
we might
her,
see her again.
like that version of her.
Oh, I certainly think she's gonna pop back
That
up
version
again,
of her-
especially when
Back.
she can.
even in that
Yeah,
moment
definitely.
could be like undercover hiding with a version of Kang. Like
Yes.
Okay.
it doesn't
I would
give us anything.
I would agree.
And I mean, like, since it's heavily featured in the comments, at the comics, like Kang is. I mean, I know like Thanos, for instance, was like a super interesting villain, right? There were so many aspects of him that were just
Complex.
Hopefully the stream isn't dropping right now. It says my bit rate got messed up. I don't know if you guys can still hear us or not. But anyway, I'll just keep talking anyway. And that, like, Kang is like undoubtedly going to be an interesting character. He's not just going to be, oh, he's the bad guy, like we got to kill him. Like he's going to have a relationship with Renslayer, right? They're going to have a love story theoretically. Are we
Right.
going to care about them?
Perhaps. I mean, I think Thanos is a really good analogy, and we've talked about this before. It's similar to this in that we disagree with all of the methods, and like genocide is bad. It's just there's no nice way to do genocide. There's no good defensible reason for that. But in Thanos's head, he was like solving climate change, basically, right?
There's a little bit of a
like he's
little bit of a
in
slow
his
frame
head,
rate,
he was
by the
doing
way.
something selfless for the greater good. And although we disagree, it's not just like a character who's
love
like,
that.
"What?"
I love that Thanos
Evil.
does it too, and then past Thanos shows up and is like, "I did it, but I fixed nothing because people are always assholes. Time to kill everybody and restart." And it's like your plan was like, "I can create a utopia," and then he's like, "God damn
He's gonna
human nature!
destroy
I gotta
Right,
take
yeah,
it. I
that
gotta
human
take them
nature.
all
nature.
out."
Yeah.
There's a really good
Thought it through.
scene.
I don't
Thanos.
like Endgame Thanos as much as I do Infinity War Thanos.
there's
Obviously,
there's a really
very
good
different.
scene in the 1984 version of the movie 1984. So there are two versions of this movie. They're both classics, but ultimately just read the book, it's better. But I'm thinking of the one from the 1984 movie because it's Richard Burton and John Hurt. They're two of like the greatest actors of all time. And
Yeah, Johnny,
where
this is you or something.
where like Richard Burton has John Hurt captive, and he explains to him the nature of power, basically, and how absolute power keeps hold. And
Right.
John Hurt, as Winston, the rebel, says
Rest
to
in
him,
peace,
like,
John.
you'll fail, some spark, the spirit of man, you'll fail.
John Hurt's in that movie. That's
John
great.
Hurt plays Winston.
Because
Yeah,
I didn't-
he's
I
in
didn't-
every movie.
I didn't remember that, but he plays like he
Big
plays
Brother in V for Vendetta.
in V for Vendetta. He plays the Chancellor
Yeah.
in V for Vendetta.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
he also is. I mean, we've talked a lot about Alien in the context of
obviously,
the show.
well, obviously he's an alien. Yeah.
That's like one of the most crucial moments in the history of body horror is the scene when the alien bursts out of his chest. But great,
in Spaceballs.
great actor.
Not again. I love that he's in Spaceballs.
He
again.
was one of the best actors of all time. Just died a couple of years back. Harry Potter also, for those of you who are Harry Potter fans.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that scene, I keep thinking of it. You know what, I can probably find it and like link to it in the chat if anyone's interested, but it is a very interesting scene where like they discuss the nature and the limits of power, and then John Hurt's character, his conclusion is like there's the spirit of man, basically human nature. Men will always fight back, they'll always fight to be free. So that like revolution.
Can everybody
is
hear the
inevitable.
stream okay? 'Cause I'm
Yeah,
watching it right now. It's a
Johnny,
little
every
bit-
time you join
I know, there's
anything,
always a
that your
problem.
internet is always bad.
It's not my internet.
No, I'm the one streaming, so
Right.
technically it's probably
Yeah, no,
me.
I mean your internet's also been
Yeah.
pretty bad lately,
the stream
Mike.
hasn't died, but it definitely is it's not
Yeah,
getting
it's a
like
little bad.
But, like,
it's
on
not getting
Wednesday-
enough data to look
On
smooth,
Wednesday,
so-
Johnny, between you and Mike with both of your bad internets, it was
Yeah.
I was
hilarious.
in the woods, Levi. You're complaining, but I was in the woods, dude.
It's not your
What do you
fault.
not
It was
understand?
just super funny because
I
like
didn't bring a pocket router.
no, I'm just saying between you two is super funny. Jenny, I don't know if you saw this, but like
I saw Johnny in the
yeah,
woods.
but
being
Mike
like,
but Mike was like frozen, but you could still hear him, but he was like moving super slowly. It was so funny. It was so bizarre.
Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry.
Amanda's saying
I think people are saying
if he who remains is pruning to prevent Kang the Conqueror is opting for eliminating him, just exchanging one genocide for another. Yeah, like we went over this in terms of like, yeah, like it's genocide either way. No choice is good. People like bad things will happen. We're not cheering on genocide. We're my answer. I don't know how Jenny
no,
said
I'm
it,
not
but like
cheering. And I actually
my answer was that
it's
like one
genocide
is
either
natural,
way.
like chaos is natural.
Yeah, chaos is natural and revolution is never bloodless. And I disagree. It's genocide either way. We don't
Yeah.
know what is going to happen. Like
Yeah.
we've discussed
Well,
already.
we did get some implication already at the end of the
Genocide
show.
is an intentional act.
And we'll-
Revolution and war, even when they result in large death, are not the same as genocide.
Well,
We've been over this ground, but like they didn't even know if chaos was gonna result. Like he could have just been.
Well, before we
lying
go too
for all
far
they
down
knew.
this path, we do have some clue to what happens at the end of the show when
Right, we
B15,
see the Kang statue.
B15 and Mobius are talking to each other, and they're like, he wants us to prune like 60 branches or whatever. I believe they say there's some line about like they want them to do something kind of crazy,
Yes.
like
Yes.
that's extreme relative to what the TVA
It's-
was doing before. And I was like, oh, it's
Right.
worse.
One thing they knew as the one guarantee they had, again, they did not know what was going to happen, and we've already pointed out, we have more information as an audience than they did as characters, but based on the information they had, they knew genocide was occurring. And Mike and I talked about this in our reaction, but like war is never like good, but revolution is never ever bloodless. It is usually necessary.
And also, like, we don't want multiverse for our characters. We don't want them to experience hardship and tragedy. That's not, but we do want the
Yes,
the
we
awesome
do.
content.
Yeah, I agree. Mike and I talked about this a little before
we don't
signed
wish
on.
death and destruction on our
It's so
friends.
funny
but
because Mike
Right.
and I in our reaction were like, yes, multiverse, bring it on. And everyone was like, what's wrong with you guys?
rhetorically.
But I mean, frankly, like I said, anybody who's ever done any course in screenwriting,
Yeah,
or,
it's like
or
the perfect tool. Like you can do
narrative,
anything.
or
Jenny,
improvisation.
we
Yeah,
talked about
that's
this
why I
before.
was
That's
so
why I was
excited.
that's why I was the most excited for
Yeah,
Loki
it's
because I was
a
like, you
very
can write,
basic rule of narrative.
you can write anything with this. And then now that it's
Yeah.
open, I'm like, you are just free storytellers. Just
as
go.
narrative, as like
Go
any
forth.
storytelling course
What
will
if?
tell you, the 101 level rule of
What if it's
storytelling
gonna tie into
is that you
stuff, by the
always
way?
make the choice that's most complicated. You always complicate. It's not going to be interesting to solve the problem. It's going to be interesting to create more complications. That's what good
Yeah,
storytelling is.
I want to the
So of course
multiverse
we're
of
like, bring
madness.
on the
Jenny.
multiverse. We want to
Yeah.
see that. That's going to be
Exactly.
It's
interesting.
like, yeah, maybe having Sylvie and Loki in charge of the Sacred Timeline TVA, maybe that would be a better like decision. Maybe they would have ruled benevolently, but like,
That's not their choice, and it's not
Yeah.
Kang's choice.
Mm.
but
This
also
was
like,
the
yeah, that's
final-
where you run out of story at that point.
This was
or
the
you know,
final scene of Snowpiercer. It obviously was
It
like
opens up so
directly
much.
referencing it. There's this society that has been regimented very viciously. There are effectively like slaves who live in the rear of this train, and then there are like there's a worker class, and then there are the upper class people who just like sit around eating sushi all day.
You know
even
about
after the
Snowpiercer?
apocalypse.
I tuned out for a second.
Yeah, Snowpiercer.
Yes.
I just
And
realized that didn't
Chris
they explore
Evans
similar
fights his
concepts in the
way.
Matrix sequels with like the architect,
Very much.
Yeah.
It's
where
a similar
there's
thought
like
with the
infinite
architect.
versions of Neo and like just this version of Neo.
With
like-
Loki, yeah.
Yeah, and
The thing that
those
keeps
movies
coming
were
back to
horrible, but
I did not love Snowpiercer either, but when Chris Evans fights his way to the front, John Hurt's in that too, by the way.
He is. Yeah, he's at the back.
He's also in that.
But he's freaking. He's like
What
a
is
friend
he?
in the plant. He's the friend of.
He's like the friend, but he's actually it turns out that he's been manipulating this situation as well. When Chris Evans gets to the front of the
He's a
train,
game
it's an
player.
incredibly similar scene to like
I can't
Loki
believe
and
I'm forgetting
Sylvie
his
reaching
name.
the castle,
Man in
where
Black in Westworld. What the hell is his
Ed
name? Sorry.
Harris like
Ed Harris. Thank you.
yeah, he teaches them like the nature of what's going on. And he says
Right.
basically manipulated
I know
all
exactly
of
what
you.
you're
Like
saying.
it's a closed system, and like not having chaos, like maintaining order requires us to manipulate the situation. So it's the exact same thing as the timeline.
Yeah.
Like free will
No, I
exists.
didn't even think about that. Like the
Free will
connection, like
exists,
just kind of how
but-
that scene played
like,
out between
also
Loki
how like
and
the train goes around
Snowpiercer.
the world
Very
and
similar.
timeline was like a circle around the castle. But it's the same situation where like free will exists, but we have manipulated without you knowing it into making only the choices we've predetermined for you. And it, it's the exact same thing also where Ed Harris offers Chris Evans his job. He says like, I'm old, I'm tired, I
Yeah.
have to go like eat sushi.
It's very
So
similar.
why don't you
Steak.
become the
in this
new
instance.
benevolent
Yep.
steak? In this
Yep.
case, like, why don't you become the new benevolent dictator? And Chris Evans chooses chaos. In that,
Right.
which, again, it's not my favorite, not even my favorite Bong Joon-ho movie, let alone my favorite sci-fi movie. But
seen it in a while.
this was
Is-
like a very
who is
similar
the-
scene.
Who plays the like? Is it the same guy from Parasite who plays the tech
Is
guy?
it the same actor?
Is it
The
same
dad?
actor? The dad.
I
believe
don't
he's in it.
know.
Yeah,
I
he's in
should
it.
know
I think
that,
he's
and
in
I
every
can't
single one of his
remember.
films.
Sorry, I've been thinking a lot about Son Kang lately of Fast and Furious fame because we got some Kenobi news about the show.
Oh
today,
shoot! Big
about what
stuff.
he's
Yeah.
doing in the show, and
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it for anyone who doesn't want to hear, but I've been thinking about that.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I just looked it
I
up.
won't
It
say
is
anything
the same
either.
actor, Levi. Same
Wait,
guy
that's-
plays
that's
the
a
dad in
spoiler. Oh yeah, I
Parasite.
guess it is. Yeah.
I mean, he has said so.
Oh,
we-
the Kenobi thing. Yes.
We diverged from Loki a bit here just for a second, but just to
Do you know
clarify for
about
the
it, Mike?
audience, there
Yeah.
is so Jordan
Oh, okay.
Mason, who runs Cinelinx, who is a very established
He is the dude.
person in the leaking
He is the
community,
leaks dude. Yeah.
released a scoop yesterday, but it also was in conjunction with an interview that Sun Kang, the actor of Han fame from Fast and Furious, was doing for F9, and he talked about Kenobi, and it like what he says out of context wouldn't give you a lot, but like you're like, oh, I see what you're talking about with the context of the leak. So we know a lot more now about that show than we did before, and I don't know, we might talk about it later, but that information is out there now.
If you want to talk about it, yeah, 'cause it's
Very
very exciting.
Cool.
More Kenobi news.
Yeah, and we're not going to talk about that. You're saying that's too spoiler heavy.
Well,
if you want to,
people
we
wanna
can.
talk
It's
about
up to
it, yeah.
you. Yeah.
I don't
Up to
really
you.
think it's that spoilery. Assuming I'm thinking that here and talking about
Okay.
the same thing that you were talking about.
I mean,
It's mostly just like
I think
casting.
we are.
Like
I think we are. I don't know.
Loki. Let's talk about Loki more. Let's talk about
Yes,
Loki.
okay.
We're on
Keep
Loki.
going
There's
about
so
Loki.
much.
Yeah.
We could talk about this all day. It's like
Yeah.
so.
Well,
I
we talked
love
about the. Go ahead,
Rich.
Johnny.
I know we said this, but I just love the story opportunity with this and just literally the endless possibilities.
Oh, hey
and-
guys, Jasmine.
so exciting.
Jazz.
What's up, Jasmine?
Hey.
Ahsoka
He's
Tano
waving.
fan.
I swear I'm waving. There it is.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you can't see his hand.
Yeah, we're
I am
shopping
just
today.
so excited for everything and they tease this multiversal war, and that means they're setting up secret wars, and that's
Mhm,
gonna
but-
be the end game of this whatever saga they're doing, and it's
Well,
very, very exciting.
Johnny, I know you're such a huge Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
Like, that was
Are you a Spider-Man fan? I can't tell.
Man.
I know Johnny is
Little
like he's the resident Spider-Man freak, but I feel like that was one of the
Freak.
first things. Like,
Wow.
no, in a good way. That's a good. No, that's a
Sound
Yeah,
like
no, I
J.
know.
Jonah
with,
Jameson.
with love, Johnny, with love.
I know. Peace and love. Peace and love.
But yeah, no, thinking like my first reaction was like, all right, does this mean No Way Home trailer soon?
Now they can,
Yeah,
right? That would
I think
explain why
they
they've
will.
waited so
I
long.
think they will. I think
Oh,
it's-
is Viola Davis in Snowpiercer too?
No,
Is she?
Octavia
no,
Spencer.
yeah,
Octavia Spencer.
Octavia
yes.
Spencer.
Sorry, I watched
Brent-
the Suicide Squad.
Brent
trailer
is
yesterday. That's
asking
Viola
when
Davis.
Loki season 2 goes into
Suicide Squad,
production.
very
I believe
exciting.
they're
August 5th.
filming next year, so it's going to be a while.
Yeah,
That's what I understand.
it could still
They're
come
filming next
before
year.
Ant-Man though.
Very possibly. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
But I'm just before. I'm not crazy, right? Is Viola Davis? She's Waller in Suicide Squad.
And Amanda
right?
Waller, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
that's what I'm thinking of because I just watched that little featurette they did. Which this is a super. Why does James Gunn look like Santa Claus now? I don't.
I just
Yeah,
saw
he-
that. I
he
was
like,
like,
just
what
went full
what
white.
happened?
He went
Like-
full white.
like-
What happened? You went
like,
full
what
silver
happened?
box.
Like
Yeah.
a year
Oh,
ago,
it's
he looks like
No.
James Gunn, as James Gunn
James
always
Gunn.
did, being offensive sometimes. And
I
now
kind
he
of-
looks
I kinda
like, and
dig it,
now he looks
though.
like Santa Claus.
kinda
I don't
dig it.
understand.
Yeah, I'm into it. He's got like
I
his
kinda
new
dig it, though.
But
supervillain
like,
look.
not
what
I'm into it.
happened?
Santa
But like,
Claus,
but
but
like,
it's
what
like-
happened
What
in that
happened?
year?
Yeah, I really
Like,
wanna
it's
know what
so weird
happened.
to me. Like, he was literally
Well, he had a
see
rough
him.
year too, though, right? Trying to like dealing with the whole Guardians getting fired
Yeah.
from that
Oh,
situation.
he got
and-
That was like-
canceled
that
for
was
a
like-
second.
That was like 3
Yeah.
years ago. That was so
which
long
is
ago. What do you mean?
Odd and whatever.
Was
but-
it though?
Yeah,
That was a while. Yeah, no,
That was
no,
a
I
while
was
ago.
on that. That was a while. That was.
because the
I
result
was
of
still
that,
in LA then.
yeah,
I remember that
the
happening.
result of that whole
Yeah.
process was Warner Brothers hiring him for Suicide Squad. And
Yeah,
now
like,
that
yeah,
oh,
movie-
Marvel
and
doesn't
now that
want him?
movie,
Okay,
and
we'll
now that
take him.
movie is coming out.
Now he's getting
So
both.
it was a while ago, but
That was a while ago.
my
He's
point
got
was
Guardians
in-
and he's got Suicide Squad.
in the
He's
freaking
on
trailer
top.
where like you see the behind the scenes of the
Peacemaker.
movie, he looks like the same James Gunn. But something happened during post production where like he just looks like Santa Claus, and I don't
Colonel
understand.
Sanders, like skinny
probably
Colonel Sanders.
probably
Yeah.
the pandy.
Do you think he was struck by lightning?
No.
James
No.
Gunn.
Oh yeah, that's just
Turned his
origin
hair
story.
white.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
What else?
No Way Home trailer probably.
Yeah,
very
they
soon.
can. I mean, I
What
was
happened?
kind of thinking like this might be the
Like-
reason they waited
I don't
so long.
think they're
and now
gonna
they've
reveal-
unleashed it.
I don't think they're gonna reveal any multiversal stuff in,
They have
in
to.
at least in the first trailer.
They
I
have
don't think
to.
they will. It's
That's
too
what the
big.
movie's about. They have to.
It's too big. I think they're gonna focus on what
Well,
kind of the
there's
leaks,
also
the
the
Lego sets and
question
whatnot have
of
been.
how much of it is like the multiverse problem that Loki and Sylvie just unleashed, and how much of it
Yeah.
has to do with Doc Ock and his weird, whatever that
I
machine
think
is
it's
that he
gonna
dropped
be
into
a
the
mix
harbor.
of both.
So
Yeah.
a little, yeah. I
think
mean,
it's gonna
maybe there's
be-
convergence of those two things.
I don't think you
No,
get
definitely
Spider-
Loki. What happened in Loki is going to have
Yeah.
clear effects into No Way
It would be
Home.
nice to get a little bit more experience with the multiverse so that we can kind of like get
What
a
if?
feel for like
That's what if.
how it all works.
That's what
Yeah,
If is
that's what
doing.
if is for. I
Yeah,
feel like.
And it is
True.
supposed to have
Ties to
some ties and connections. So I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be too big.
Because you
get-
don't
we're
necessarily
gonna
just
get
want to like go into
Chadwick's
Spider-Man
final
or whatever
performance in
and
What If
Yep.
as well. Chadwick's
Yep.
last role
Rest in peace.
oh
Yep.
yeah,
in
Yep.
What
that's
If.
Star Lord.
that's kind of depressing to think
It's,
about.
it's depressing and
Yeah.
sad, but like we love you, Chadwick, forever.
It's awesome that
Yes.
we get to have him at least one more time though. That's great.
What a
That's
beast
It
of a
is.
man. I still can't comprehend how he had cancer the whole time and was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna
Oh,
do
yeah.
the movies. It's like
He did
How
all
does-
those movies.
it's
He
like,
did
how does
all
he
the
do
ones
that,
in
dude?
Black Panther,
that's
and he's
so
done like
crazy.
other projects too on top of that.
So
Well,
wait a
Ma
minute.
Rainey, the Oscar
Something.
nominee.
Somebody
from
asked the
this
exact
year.
same question earlier, and we kind of addressed it, but Sean Banks just asked basically
Again,
the same
yeah.
question. Yeah. Do we think the WandaVision post-credit scene takes place after the events of Loki
It
now
does.
with the timeline?
It's confirmed.
So
it
that's
does.
why she could hear
I think
her
so
kids
because
calling
again,
out to
this
her.
started. We know that he's been in like a time-free zone
Loki
most of
comes
the
first
show.
of all
But
the
like,
shows.
Wait, what are you
yeah, I
saying?
mean, well, so the opening gambit of this
Is
Loki
Scarlet
takes
Witch
place-
hearing her kids in the post-credit
during-
scene of WandaVision?
right.
Is that
From a
now
different
because there's a
multiverse?
there's
So
a
like this
multiverse?
obviously.
Well, no, we know it's that, John.
This
but
this starts during the events of Endgame. Loki.
When
So
did we know
this
that?
this happens
When
first.
did we know
happens
that?
first, and of course he's been in like a time-free zone, so we don't really know how time has progressed while the show's been going on.
On
But
the
he-
Marvel timeline on Disney Plus.
It
Loki
says
comes-
so, right? Like he
Loki
went
comes
into the Tesseract during the events of Endgame, which predates both WandaVision and
Predates-
Falcon.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's
And
not Endgame.
so-
It's like,
You know what?
oh,
I don't
whatever.
also.
but it
I'm
is.
not-
It is.
I'm not
It's
sure
not.
that
It's
the.
Endgame.
It's 2012.
I'm
But
not
it's in
sure that
Endgame.
the
That's
that
during
the
Endgame.
witch.
during
I know,
the
but
events
it's
of
just
Endgame that Loki
it's
goes into the
confusing.
Tesseract. That's when that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That predates.
Yes, I get what you're saying.
But
The events
you're
of
right,
Endgame.
by
Remember
quite a
how
few
Hulk explains
years.
it? That 2012 is that version, like 2023's future. So they're there.
Right.
Loki does that.
Right.
That happens, and then this happens,
Right,
and then the
'cause they
shows
haven't-
come
Yeah,
after.
yeah.
They haven't done their
After.
time travel yet.
But
It-
also,
right,
I was wondering
so-
that like that the witches, like the Darkhold thing, Wanda's magic, seems still kind of like a little bit separate to like the timeline multiverse situation. That it's like, to me, it was almost more like Tommy and Billy were like in in the underworld or like in a dark place. It wasn't necessarily like
so now the thing is that that's the multiverse.
they're
Billy
supposed to be in
Tommy in the
hell in the
multiverse?
comics,
Well,
right?
and
Like
then
it's
we still
actual
haven't-
hell.
in the course of the show, we still haven't really addressed the fact that Wanda is a Nexus being. She's one of
Yeah.
only a few. Kang being another example, but like she's one of only a few that actually can
I
operate
don't know if I'm.
section of dimensions. So I don't know if it's specifically an Easter egg that we're supposed to pick up. Oh, it's because of Kang dying or this version. It's specifically
No,
because
but
of Sylvie's actions.
what we're saying
that,
is that Billy and Tommy are that one that called to Wanda in the post-credit scene is from a different multiverse, or is that what we're saying?
Well, the
Or is
ones-
this-
think
Yeah,
that's
well, I'm
Sean's
saying it doesn't
question.
necessarily need to be a multiverse scenario. It could be like they're actually in hell. They're in a different dimension. It's
right,
not
of this
necessarily
same
like
universe.
That's what
or
I
something.
thought.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, because again, like there
I
is
didn't know if
Wanda
there's any
still
explanation
has,
I didn't
even
get
within
on
that
there.
same universe, Wanda still has like extraordinary powers. and-
Either way, I think that
Because then also in theory it wouldn't be her kids. It would be like variants of her kids.
Well,
who-
exactly.
And then,
I think that'd be. I think
That's
that'd
what
be
I'm
no, but that'd be cool.
Right.
That'd be a cool
saying.
problem because it wouldn't be the same
Yeah.
because her kids are dead, and she
Yeah.
brings them like she
right,
brings them.
and after that whole thing they
Harsh.
went
Her
through
kids
with
are
like
dead.
Vision and
Well,
White Vision, it's very,
They're never real. So like if she like
Amanda,
breaks
we're
the
all
multiverse
excited
more.
for vampires. Blade,
yeah,
Blade.
yeah, that's
Who
Who
another
runs
question.
the
Yeah.
world?
Does
Vampires.
does the
Night,
fact that she's a
night.
Nexus being and like the Nexus beings are like super rare, that like does that
Yeah.
mean does she have what do her powers?
There might be like
what are the
another
implications
Wanda, another Wanda across the multiverse who she died and the kids are alive and she's like, let me get you, my.
Well,
my
I meant
children."
like, does that
Right.
also maybe, obviously like she and Doctor Strange are going to be in terms of like their power level or like leading the pack for the good guys, or Wanda's not necessarily a good guy.
Yeah, the
at
gray
moment.
guys.
The
Right,
gray
we sort
guys,
of,
yeah.
I mean,
The
one of
potentially
things-
good guys.
All three of these
Mhm.
shows,
But like,
have
are they going to
really
be
done
pitted
away with
against
the
Kang
idea.
in the future because of their potential?
I
I think
It's
I
really
think Wanda
interesting.
is the villain.
It's really interesting what you said
Ah.
about like Wanda and Agatha and the Darkhold and all this stuff, which is just, it's like what I just said about Spider-Man, like how much of it is the multiverse, how much of it is Doc Ock and his weird fusion generator thing. It's the same thing here where like there are multiple chaos agents in the MCU right now. The Darkhold
Yeah.
has traditionally been used to like mess with interdimensional energy as well. And then there's Dr. Octopus with his thing, which is messing with quantum energy. And then there's Ant-Man who's going in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
So there are like, and now there's Kang, Multiverse, Loki and Sylvie, whatever. So that's like 4 or 5 different things that are all causing potentially like
yeah.
dimensional
Brown.
or interdimensional
Th-
chaos.
Thanks
in
for the
this
super chat.
universe.
$5 super chat from Everett Brown. I think the sacred timeline was unnatural, and that's why variants and branch timelines are created. And Kang knew this was the timeline trying to be free.
Mm.
Yes.
I'm not sure I follow all of that, but I agree
The
with
sacred
the
timeline was
timeline's
unnatural.
Yes,
Yeah, I definitely
for
go
sure.
along with that. That's artificially created. That's monoculture.
And we talked
in
about
a
that.
very
Jenny,
unethical
Jenny,
way.
Jenny and I talked about that
Yeah.
from episode 2. Like we were like, or at least I was like, this timeline branch. And I was like, that's a good thing. I was like,
Yes,
yeah,
no, you
keep
and I
branching.
were on the same page immediately. Like we were out on a limb, no pun intended. We were out
And this
on a
guy
limb
down here,
for a
Johnny,
while
was
there,
like,
but,
no, go
Johnny
TVA.
was like, no.
And I was like,
I-
yeah,
Mm.
branch
No,
the
Levi
timeline.
and I have been on the same page this entire time.
You can't
so-
undo
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you can't.
yeah,
You can't
yeah.
undo it, Johnny. You can't undo what you said in the past.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying
But
to
you
do
can be Spider-Man.
I was
so,
wrong.
Can be Spider-Man.
You know.
You can be Spider-Man.
Or
Thanks.
Timothy Chalamet.
Or yes, you do.
Jenny,
have a
I
striking
don't know if
resemblance
you've
to
gotten on
Michelle.
board with this yet, but Johnny is Peter Parker. Have
Oh,
you noticed?
absolutely.
You could
Right?
you could
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
You
Johnny
could
could 100%
definitely
be
be a
compliment
Peter
anyone
Parker.
can give me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
could-
thank
you
you
should
could
definitely be. You should
Hundo.
definitely be
That
Peter
fancy
Parker
suit,
in
you
a
should do it.
Spider-Man.
Funniest.
fan film.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna say anything. Yeah.
But yeah, you would
Yep.
make
Yeah.
a great Peter Parker.
Thank you.
It was funny.
appreciate
I'm
that.
sorry. What was the kid who's
Yeah, what were we
doing
talking about?
Spider-Man?
Brent's talking about how events that are already taking place are now being messed with, new multiverse breaking through from the time bombs. So are these fixed changes now? That's a world building question. That's a like, how do they define time travel type question that I think they're gonna have to answer for us. That's a like, which model of time travel or which model of
Yeah.
that
Oh,
are they
this is one thing I
following?
want to cover here. Jaden brought it up, and I
Mm.
forgot that we didn't talk about it yet. Was the TVA at the end alternate
Oh,
or
yeah.
reset? Yeah,
I think
that
both
was a little
possibilities-
unclear.
Both possibilities are legitimate at this point.
I don't
So-
think we don't have
so
a.
For
Yes.
anyone who's like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
The sort of tag scene where Loki runs back in the TVA and
So
says,
cool.
we've got a crisis on our hands, and Mobius and B-15 don't recognize him. And we see that there's just the single statue of Kang, who obviously is the timekeeper of this universe. So the question is, because Kang has like access to all of time, did he time travel on the so-called sacred timeline and change things so that this is the same? This is like a reset version of the universe Loki was already in.
Well, first
or
off,
is
do we
this an
think
alternate timeline? And I think
She
like, both
also
are
pushed
valid.
him back into the TVA
we-
before she killed Kang. So
Right.
like,
that's why I was a little confused on that part. And like,
yeah.
Well, though, think about
is
it.
this the Kang that we're gonna see? Is this like the
She
version
used,
that,
though,
that
she
statue?
She used the
was-
Kang tempad,
True,
So?
but also like
Right.
once he
which is
goes
like
through that
the
door,
OG
once,
tempad, the
once
mega
she stabs
tempad. So
him,
where the heck was that
every
program to
decision
go?
any of them makes
Mm.
creating an alternate timeline, right? Like every decision anyone makes.
Yeah, but
So he could have gone back into the sacred timeline and then ended up on a branch because he turned left instead of
Yeah,
right
that's
in
the
the
problem.
corridor.
That's
you
the
know?
problem with Kang.
We don't know.
That's the problem with Kang, and which makes him more dangerous than Thanos, is that he's a time traveling a villain. You know, you give him a second, he'll take 1,000 years, and so
yeah.
this instant that Sylvie kills him, it's just like you're done. You're done. So
Yeah.
I like to
I
applaud
agree
Marvel.
with Brent
I
that
didn't
it
say
felt
this.
that way. I think that like both possibilities are sort of open, and
I don't think we know.
Yeah.
but I
my
don't think
current-
we know yet. Yeah.
My current theory is that because it's the OG tempad, like it's literally the original tempad, that thing is programmed to go to maybe it's programmed to go into the alternate timeline where it is Kang the Conqueror, because that was Kang the Conqueror at the end there, and so
Right.
that's just where she pushed him. I don't think she was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna send Loki here. I think she just pushed him through a door without thinking
Mm-hmm.
where I was gonna send him, and it happened to be this alternate TVA.
Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah,
say
that's the way it
I want to
felt.
applaud Marvel for not doing a big CGI battle at the end of a show or a movie. That was
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. We all love it.
We all
But
loved it.
that hit hard.
The
way harder
episode,
than
as a
most.
whole was the slowest
agree,
paced episode of
Johnny.
the season.
Yeah.
That's very counterintuitive.
Lamentis might have been like equally slow paced. I
Not
would say,
even. There were
but-
literal asteroids falling around
But
the
there were
entirety of the
asteroids,
episode.
yeah.
Only
And that
It
one
wasn't
shot at
very-
the end that
two.
was like,
Episode 2 was the slowest paced.
You
It was
think
the
so?
longest. It was the longest episode, and I think it was the slowest.
I just feel like the fact that
It's-
Kang had like mostly monologue in this
Yeah.
episode, and it was just their
And
characters.
it was a
and it
bottle episode. It took, I mean, even more technically, we
Check
refer
this
to
guy out.
Lamentis as a bottle episode,
It was
but
the-
Lamentis had
Okay.
multiple locations. This really truly was a bottle episode taking place in this one beautiful Kintsugi inspired Citadel castle. It
inside Kylo
Yeah.
Ren's helmet.
Yeah.
But do we think that?
nice.
I think that
It's Kang.
only
It's Kang.
There he is.
really WandaVision suffered from this is a CGI battle ending, because Falcon Winter Soldier ended with a really good speech.
Talk about WandaVision. No.
Yeah, Falcon and the Winter
Yeah.
Soldier had Sam giving that speech, and then we got Isaiah Bradley exhibit, which I don't know about y'all, but Michael and I cried real tears on the internet.
Hey Jenny, I was on your side. We predicted that like 2 weeks beforehand. We were like, we got to see that.
Oh no,
Mhm.
Mike
We
said
did.
that like
It
in
was
episode
beautiful.
1. Like we knew that was gonna come, but that my point
Oh,
is
right,
that
right,
wasn't a
right,
big CGI battle. That was like
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
emotional.
That was a beautiful moment.
Only-
That was
I think
beautiful.
only
beautiful,
WandaVision.
emotional.
Only
Didn't we say that
WandaVision.
WandaVision went through a lot of last minute changes, and that like a lot of that CGI might have even just been like slightly unfinished, kind of?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so only
But
WandaVision
yet they're
suffers from this.
still winning awards, which is funny.
Not only that, because the episode 8.
Did anybody
Episode-
notice how well?
This
WandaVision
is so funny because as everybody who has watched this channel for a minute knows, I love Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's like my favorite person
Don
in the
Cheadle.
world.
He's in it.
But
He's in it for like
Even
a second.
I am like, he was in the show for 30 seconds. They were
I
checking
know.
boxes, and quite ironically, they could have checked the exact same stupid box within the same show and accidentally nominated the correct actor, Carl Lumley, for that guest award. Like, award shows are stupid, but
honestly,
they
it's
matter
insulting.
because of like funding and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
just for the record, I think that the performance Carl Lumley gave in Falcon and the Winter Soldier
Yeah.
was the best performance by any actor of any gender identity in any genre on any platform this year. I think he deserves all the plaudits in the universe.
Yeah.
Bit of praise. I
And
mean,
we
yeah,
also
that was
love you,
good.
Don Cheadle. You're a great
Love
actor
you,
and
Don
like my
Cheadle.
favorite. So
But
He's
to go
gonna get
back-
his own show, so we're gonna get a lot
circle-
of
getting his own show. Armor
to circle
Wars is
though
coming.
back to like to
Yeah.
I'm
WandaVision.
more
Like
excited about.
only the finale I think suffers from that CGI fate, but like the episode before the finale is probably the best episode in all of Marvel television, which is like the one where she's going through her memories, and like
Oh, yeah.
And like
Yeah.
that's such an
Incredible.
amazing episode. And you
Incredible.
got the Vision stuff where like what is
If they
what
could
is love,
incorporate a
but
finale within that, that would have been.
or what is grief,
better, in
you
my
know, but
opinion.
love persevering. Like you have so much good stuff in that. That's like emotionally resonant and powerful. And
That
then it
was
just
an
gets
amazing
it gets
episode.
muddled with the
Didn't Paul
CGI.
Bettany get nominated? I'm just trying to. There's so many awards.
He
I'm trying to
did.
keep up.
Elizabeth Olsen did. Jonathan Majors did for Lovecraft Country, actually.
Okay, good.
Congratulations to him. He's awesome. Don
Oh.
Cheadle did. And
Friend of the
then
show, John.
nobody else.
Thank you, John.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. I want to say so. I was looking at it and I found out that apparently Jonathan Majors in that scene, which he stole the show in the last episode. Obviously, I think we can all agree on that.
So
A lot of that
good.
was improvised, which is quite interesting. Like he just improvised.
It
a
seemed
lot of it.
improvised.
It's a lot of it seemed like
it
when
did,
he was
but it
like
worked.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11 seconds.
And him
whatever.
jumping
Yeah.
on the desk and stuff like that
Yeah.
It
scene.
was awesome.
Yeah. But he
I
made a
loved
meal
that.
out of it. He was just like, it
He
was
did.
literally as if they said, like,
did.
let's do a
And that-
rehearsal
that
take and
excites
just have
me
That
fun
was
with
very
it.
theatrical,
filmed
wasn't
it.
it? It was
Exactly.
very.
Extremely
But it worked.
It was like
theatrical.
watching
worked.
a play.
Yeah, it
But
was
he,
like
I mean,
watching a
it just
play, yeah.
added to that whole. He's a little leprechaun. He's a little,
little imp man.
trickster. He's
Yeah,
an
little imp
Yeah,
man.
little
he was
imp- yeah, little
puckish
imp-
in the extreme, and he just had so much fun with it. And it is
Yeah.
almost invariably fun to watch actors having fun. And like he really he went for it. He
Yes.
did
I have-
everything.
That is always what I
loved
say.
it.
That's what I like to say about Michael Sheen, esteemed stage actor in Tron Legacy. One of the best guest stars, like special appearances in anything ever, is Michael Sheen as Castor in that film.
Yeah.
He is just eating it up like nobody's business.
He
It
is very good at that. There's a really funny show on Hulu, if anybody has Hulu, which was
Omens.
literally like, well, yes, Good Omens, I highly recommend. But speaking of, they were just bored in lockdown. So it turns out that in real life, IRL, Michael Sheen and David Tennant, who not only played Doctor Who, but also co-star in Good Omens, they were supposed to be doing a play together in London. And it fell through because of lockdown, because of the pandemic. So they just decided to make a show together from their own homes. They literally like used iPhones in their own houses, starring themselves as fictionalized versions of themselves. And it's literally just them sort of being mean to each other over Skype.
It's great.
And they made two seasons of it during lockdown. I think it's called Staged. So it's very funny. And it's definitely Michael Sheen indulging this like version of himself as a sort of over-the-top egomaniac actor.
And
it's
for those of you,
really funny.
For those of you who are uninitiated with Michael Sheen, you may know him as the head vampire in Twilight.
The Volturi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end, he's the crazy, and even in that, he's just like crazy. And like,
I think he plays a Lycan
Wait,
in
am I
Underworld,
thinking of
right?
the
He's the star of Masters of Sex, which was a great show.
Yeah, and
He
he
and
was
Jessica
married
Jones?
to Kate Beckinsale, right?
no, that's David Tennant. David Tennant. is-
Tennant.
No,
shoot.
David
Yeah, I got
Tennant was
mixed
not
up.
married
I got
to Kate
mixed up.
Beckinsale.
Who was Michael
No,
Sheen married to?
Oh,
I
What?
can't remember. I mean, I know who he's
you're not
married
talking.
to.
You're not talking
but-
about Charlie Sheen's dad,
That's
No,
Martin
that-
Sheen.
Michael Sheen is a Welsh actor.
Michael Sheen. Okay.
He's a Welsh actor who's in
There's a
Good
difference between
Omens.
Martin.
Masters
Martin.
of
Yep.
Sex.
I don't know why I kept hearing Martin Sheen.
Although I would love
I
to
know who
see
this is.
Michael Sheen
I
in
know who this
Apocalypse
is.
Now.
I'm
That'd
sorry.
be crazy. That'd be nuts.
He's so funny too. He
Yes,
keeps
I know who this
saying that
is.
he's retiring. Michael Sheen has said multiple times that he's like retiring from acting to focus on like advocacy and activism, but
Why I
he's
kept saying
so
Martin
good
Sheen.
and he keeps coming back and he's good.
Everyone go watch the stuff in
everything.
Tron Legacy. It's what makes this movie is underrated, but that's
Michael Sheen and Kate Beckinsale
good.
were together for 7
they?
years.
Look
Boom!
at you! I did not know that. Okay.
Boom.
Cool.
Lucky bastard.
Anyway, Michael Sheen, good,
Michael Sheen.
good actor, really good
Yeah.
actor.
Love to see him
Definitely.
in Marvel sometime. That'd be good.
Yeah, it's so funny when you try to think of like the caliber of actor that the MCU is used to attracting and like who hasn't appeared in the MCU at some point. Like the list is just dwindling. It's so funny. Like who's gonna show up next?
Speaking of Tron Legacy, what happened to the whole like Jared Leto Tron sequel thing that was
Yeah.
supposed to happen?
Pandemic.
It's not
Pandemic?
working out. Or pandemic. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I hope it's still
Hopefully
Is
coming
it
out.
one
supposed
day.
to be
Hopefully
like a
one day.
direct sequel to Legacy, or is it?
I have no idea, but I wanted that.
There
I
weren't
want
too many
that.
details.
No, I wanted
right?
it with Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde, man.
Wild.
I don't want Jared
Yeah.
Leto.
Because
and
between
some
the
new
time,
BS.
because the whole reason the Tron like
I don't
sequel
want
rumors
Jared Leto. Hmm.
rumors got leaked out. I don't know. I watched Blade Runner 2049 last night. He's good in that movie.
He's great in that movie. Did you see the
He
short
was
film that they
very
made
good
with
in that
too?
movie. Yeah, I
But-
mean he was very good in that Blade Runner
But
movie.
the how it started, the Tron rumors, like the actual oh, this is happening, is
He made a post.
it was that happened after this, but someone in like the
Afterwards,
soundtrack
okay.
community, like who knew Daft Punk and like the Disney I don't know, sound editing, was like, oh yeah, we're working with Daft Punk on another Tron. But then between now and then, the pandemic happened and they broke up. And I'm like,
yeah, Daft Punk. Oh, I forgot about that.
and I'm like, I don't know. I want it to
such a
happen,
bummer.
please. The Tron Legacy soundtrack is one of the best things ever put. Your
Love
ears
it.
can ever
Honestly,
ever
Love
listen
it.
Good.
Yeah, honestly, if Daft Punk is out, that's a big loss.
Game changer.
Well, obviously
that's
they're
a,
out
that's a,
because that's a
as
that's a
Clue would
that's
say.
a deal breaker for you,
The
Johnny.
game has changed.
a little bit. That soundtrack is oof.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Still listen
Kevin
to it.
Flynn, where are you now?
So wait a minute. Here's a question I'm thinking
Yes.
of, which is now that in theory infinite Kangs have been let loose in the multiverse, when now do we run into Kang again? Is it going to be in
Quantumania.
Loki season 2?
Confirmed.
Loki season 2.
Loki season
Loki
2
season 2 will
probably
definitely deal
comes
with it, yes.
before Quantumania, right? So
Yeah, I think Loki
I
season 2 comes
don't
out before.
know.
I'm not
They
positive on
say-
that.
did they say
gonna
that?
see him in both
I
properties
just
for
I think
sure.
I just think it comes first because Ant-Man is what, mid 2023 if the show films
yeah.
like
I
early 2022
honestly
it
don't
comes
know.
out before. Yeah, I think
Loki's-
Loki season
the answer
2
is we're uncertain on release dates, but that we're going to see him in both of those properties probably in
Oh
fairly
yeah,
quick
he's probably gonna be
succession.
spread out. He's gonna be spread out amongst.
I think
gonna
Loki
stick around
season
for a
2.
while.
I think
Yes.
he cameos in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And then Loki season 2.
And again, there's so many
leads
Kangs.
Well,
into,
you know, like we had like
Right.
a handful of little Thanos appearances
Right,
here
well,
and
that's
there,
exactly my
and then
point.
and
Yeah, and then
eventually-
every time he was just
the
like, I'm gonna
rising
kill
big
the
bad
Avengers.
for a while
Yeah.
before Infinity
So
War
every
happened.
end credit scene. I'm
So
like,
that's my
remember when he
reaction.
grabbed that
Grabs the
fake
gauntlet.
Infinity Gauntlet?
yeah.
Yeah.
Weird.
But I think
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. It's the new version of Thanos for this phase of the
Well,
MCU. Is that he's going to
Does
keep
anybody
popping
remember
up
that he
and
was in
he's
Guardians of the
ultimate big
Galaxy
bad.
1?
Yes.
Who was?
Yes,
He's a
Yeah,
main
but-
part of that movie.
Thanos.
Yeah.
Oh, Thanos. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He like people like to forget that like
I
he's
know,
more
I
of a,
did forget
Lee
about that.
Pace is like
Oh,
talking
Luke
up to
Cage,
him.
Yeah.
the loveliest actor.
he's
alive.
more of a like a cameo in Avengers, but like
Ronan
he's
the
a real
Accuser, like
he's
goes
like a
up
Ronan the
real
against him,
Accuser.
yeah, he's a real role
He's a character in Guardians.
in Guardians.
Yeah.
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 Ronan snaps that guy's neck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He's like the only. Well, yeah.
I like that. I like that costume. way better
Honestly,
than
still up
Endgame
there
one.
as like amongst my favorite MCU films. Both Guardians movies.
So like
actually.
Thanos is
are, like,
after the Infinity
very high
Stones,
on
and
the
Lee
list
Pace
for me.
or Ronan is like, I got one, mine now.
Those and maybe like Ragnarok. Which
I
is
think that,
everything
like-
I ever want in a superhero movie.
Do we
ever.
anticipate that Kang is going to be like a far scarier villain than
Yes.
Thanos?
Well, the possibilities are endless, right? Because
Already
I don't
he
know
is.
about scary.
Already
Oh,
he
yeah.
is to me.
Yeah,
Or
it's
did
true,
you
it's true,
see
it's true,
Jonathan
it's true.
Majors? He was nuts. This guy's
I agree.
nuts.
he's unstable, and then we're gonna get the Kang the Conqueror version of him
Like
coming
an
one of
unstable
through.
maniac.
Yeah.
he delivered one of the best
Mad
performances
Just the stature
in
of Thanos is.
in the
Yeah,
entire MCU. When he
He
gets
was
stabbed
wonderful.
and he
It really-
winks and says, "See you soon." Like hot damn, I was like, this guy is horrifying.
It was just
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
appealing. The entire thing was so engaging, and just like
Yeah.
you just.
Well, also
wanted
the
to
fact that
watch
Kang
him
himself
some
doesn't
more.
have any actual superpowers. He's
Yeah.
not. He's
Just
not even like
crazy.
enhanced in any way. He only had like a temp pad to like. make
Once
himself
again,
jump
that's
around.
seriously the Snowpiercer thing, where they get to Ed Harris, and the dictator of this entire universe
He's
is
got
just
slippers
like
on.
a dude, yes, in a bathrobe and slippers,
That's right,
literally, who's
that's
like,
right.
I'm just a man, I'm a good engineer. I made a machine. And it's the same
Yeah.
with this guy. He's like a very gifted scientist, but he was like flesh
What
and
is the
blood.
name of the corporation for the
Mhm.
W? I want to say it's like
Wilford.
Wilford. Yeah.
Wilford. Yes.
But it is,
Yeah.
I mean, that he's like just a, but it's more to the point of like who gave him the right, because he's a brilliant scientist and he figured out how to put a leash on that doggy, right? He figured out how to
Right.
corral Goliath. But like what gave him the right to make decisions for all of humanity, including like literal gods? You know?
Snowpiercer
Right.
is so
He's just a dude.
Snowpiercer is so good. When they don't have any
It's fine.
bullets.
It's
It's
not
good.
my favorite. It's not
Really?
my favorite. Not
Ah,
my favorite movie,
I love
but
it.
It's
but,
not.
I mean, there
Yeah,
are a lot
I
of,
like it.
I think it's great.
narrative
Does
similarities here.
The New
Kang-
Year
Really,
scene
I
where they
didn't-
all
I didn't even
stop
think about
and
that.
Happy New Year. Oh, it's so
Yeah, yeah.
crazy
There's
and
some
weird.
there's some scenes that hit in that film for sure. The schoolroom scene I always think about with Allison Pill.
Yeah,
So scary.
yeah.
But like
Does
That-
Kang-
that was a good scene.
How does Kang end up dying in the comics? Like who ends up taking him out?
Well, he's
Who
got like a bajillion versions of himself.
Yeah, so he never
it's
actually,
kinda,
like, Kang's
even know if
dying,
there's a
and there's other
concrete
Kangs.
answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kangs have died many times.
I
But
mean,
Kang has
it's
not
like
died.
it's like most comic.
He even
comic
kills
books,
himself too, right?
You don't
Yeah,
really,
so,
you never
yeah.
really die. So
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those.
I
things.
also wonder, it's going to be interesting. One thing that was explored in the previous episode, in episode 5 of Loki, was that although all of these Lokis are so different from each other, that entity has a predisposition to survive. So I wonder if like Kang as an entity has a predisposition to be evil or a predisposition to whatever. What is the
Yeah, I think
predisposition
to rule
you know, the nature nurture
despotically.
question? Right, exactly. So like the nature nurture predetermination versus free will thing that has been explored so much in the show, is his predetermination to be a fascist leader.
Well, you know what's so weird though is that like we don't. It's hard to explain, but let me see if I can figure out a way to say it. Go ahead and talk. I lost my train of thought.
So Hauser in the
So
Bad
Hauser,
Batch.
yeah.
How's it?
Real sexy haircut.
No,
that
but
guy.
I don't know. I mean, there's just so much with this end of Loki, just for the entire.
It was a
MCU.
lot.
Oh
I mean,
yeah, I
we
was
could
gonna
talk
say like
we
in
could
theory,
spend a
Kang
whole episode talking about the
with the
visuals.
TVA and Kang,
Yeah.
like he was letting things like the Battle of New York or like the Avengers, like he's not just like pruning them, like he's letting certain things happen because they amount to like whatever the sacred timeline, however that
Well, it was just
he
for
like
there
he
not
didn't
to
he
be
didn't
another
prune
version of it.
Thanos like he let Thanos exist. He let these things exist because they were all part of that one sacred timeline. So like in theory, like Kang may not want he's not just out for destruction for the sake of destruction. Like he may actually be
No, he's out for control.
yeah, but I just
At
meant like
least this
control
version of
may
him.
entail not destroying a timeline. It might entail like I said, allowing the Avengers to live, like allowing
Yeah.
things to happen.
Well, that's
like,
why some timelines existed
yeah.
for a while. Like Sylvie was able to live for however long in her timeline, but whatever like one mistake she made, she put a block here and not there, it would have led to, for whatever reason, a Kang.
Well, and
being
it's right.
evil.
I
So it
keep
had to
coming
get rid
back
of
to how direct this is, but it's right back to the Snowpiercer thing. Not to spoil the movie, but it turns out that like John Hurt's character has been. So they thought he was an ally, and he was
Yeah, we
actually
said this.
part of the
We
manipulation.
said this earlier. Yeah, we got
And there's a
spoiled.
speech, I put it in the Discord, but there's a scene where Ed Harris tells Chris Evans, like, your revolution was planned. We stage a revolution, like we incite a revolution against ourselves every so often.
cull the
keep
herd.
to cull
Yeah.
the herd, to keep the population in balance. And it's a real wag the dog type situation, but that is actually quite realistic when you think about how statecraft operates in the real world. But that doesn't make it a good thing, like control and order are not always
And we
the
didn't really talk
ideal.
about that, or at least not when I was on. I came in like a few minutes late, but we didn't really address how Kang explicitly says that he paved the road. Like the entire show thus far has been him trying to get them to this point.
Right,
So
that
he
right
can
there is
retire.
enough for her to want to kill him. Like she not only had her whole timeline pruned, which was extremely painful, everyone she knew and loved was indiscriminately killed,
Yeah.
but also she has spent her whole life as like this scrappy orphan running away from bad guys. She has had a bad life, and that decision was made for her. She thought she was rebelling, but actually she was doing what he had already written in that transcript for her. Like that, like all of the independence you think you've cultivated, changing your name, dyeing your hair, not being a Loki, fighting back, I actually arranged that. Like I was pulling your puppet strings the whole time. That is
Exactly.
that's a big old mind fuck right there. I'd stab him too, right?
Yeah.
At least I'd be angry
Yeah.
enough to stab him. Like,
Right.
how do you deal with that when you learn that like you've literally never had free? You thought you were fighting for freedom, and actually you've never had any yourself. You were a pawn the entire time. That's dark. That's dark.
All right, so wait, it's almost 4:30. Did you? I know you're like so Hauser, but
Yeah, no, it's like,
Hauser. Yeah.
Johnny, I talked to Levi right after the episode the other night, and
Mm-hmm.
I spilled my man crush on
Yeah.
Hauser.
He was on the stream alone. He
Yeah,
did a
but
good job.
yeah, we were talking about Hauser earlier and how quickly he just like shot to the top of the list of like people.
Oh yeah, no, he's one of my favorite clones.
Yeah, and it's only took an episode and a half. Like
he's top 5 now. I'd say.
But
He's
yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
And a lot of like this is the way I'm seeing it. Like if there is a second season of Bad Batch, which I really hope there will be,
I hope he's in it.
that he's gonna become like the new Rex. He's the new
Rest in
Rex
peace, Ballast. By the way,
Yeah,
just had to say that.
I think some people got confused and were saying, "Oh, it's Hauser Ballast," but no, it's actually.
Oh, I
that
just
was
made that
just-
joke. I just kept making that joke.
that was-
and I
that was a joke.
I think I incepted you to think that. 'cause I
No,
just kept
Star Wars
making that
theory.
joke.
Star Wars theory even like made like on the last week when he was first
Did
introduced.
he really?
He named it. He was like, "Here's Hauser Ballast." He even So
Bruh.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Aw.
That's funny.
but anyway,
Yeah.
it's
Anyway,
I I think like it's
I
a
love
lot
him.
of
I love him because he's conflicted, and it's
Yeah.
very interesting. And
Yeah.
and
but
obviously
also
he's-
because
he's
he looks
pulled
freaking
between two
cool. Like he
sides.
has the cool.
and
he
he's
has
a
like
cool looking clone.
cool haircut,
The
cool
scars,
colors.
the haircut.
You know, Levi and
Yeah.
I actually said this. It's funny because you know he reminds me of like a jet ski that Mobius would ride. He like because jet skis always have like white and turquoise.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
the one thing
They're
that
gonna
is the
have to
one
give
thing.
us a jet ski in season 2, by the way.
That
has
is
to
one
be like
thing I was
the
very
finale
pissed
of-
about.
I was disappointed
Were you
too.
pissed, Johnny? You were screaming. You're like, no!
We'll still
I
get
was
it.
Yeah,
Season
very
2.
mad.
In my 10.
That has
my
to be like
Season
the
2.
finale of the whole show. Like the series finale has to be like Loki
We
and
saw
Mobius on their
Renslayer
jet
as like
ski.
the principal of
They
the
just
school.
brought it up too much. They reference it like
Right,
3 or
it's
4
like
times.
you
It's like what?
led a
No,
horse to
but
water.
there's
and-
something
I
that
think you
has to
got
be
the
past that
payoff.
payoff.
I think you did. I think you got the payoff.
We're
when
still
he
gonna get it.
died.
We're
I
still gonna
really
get it.
hope we still get it. Whenever the
I-
series
Like I
ends,
said, we
that
saw
could be-
Renslayer's variant. We need to see Mobius'
Screw it.
original.
How about instead of that pizza car he drove up in episode?
Just
have a
fly
body of
on
water
a
and he
jet
jet
ski.
skis in?
Why not?
Yes.
Why
That
not?
would have been
know?
utterly amazing.
Amazing.
Wow,
Like-
they should have done that.
Oh, come on.
I really
What a
hope
missed
that is
opportunity.
the way
Like-
the whole
like-
show ends, by the way.
Yeah.
By the way, this
It's
image
just-
behind me, can we talk about, like, we've talked many, many times about the Wizard of
So
Oz, but like
cool.
the literal parting of
Yeah.
the green curtain,
Yeah.
like there was some serious Wizard of Oz energy
this
in
was
this episode. Another reason why I don't trust a thing the dude says and still think that even in death he had tricks up his sleeve.
Oh,
The
you
apple-
do.
I don't know.
we,
I think
we talked
Jonathan.
before you
what
came
do you
on
think?
about the apple. Of
I think Jonathan
discord,
Major.
but
I think Jonathan Major sold the scene where like he
Sold
passes
it
the threshold
100%.
so well that
So
it's
well.
real.
After he passed
'Cause
it, he was like,
just like-
I
like
oh
it
yeah,
was so
no,
good.
I don't know what
I'm
to
not
do now.
contesting that it's
Yeah.
real. No, I agree with you. Just between like the apple
Oh.
of discord and the very over the top on the nose Wizard of Oz imagery, I'm like, he knows he's sowing chaos. He's here for it.
Mm.
It's literally like a science experiment to him, and it is. It's him thinking about whether he
Aurelio,
can, not
Owen
whether
Wilson
he
on a
should.
jet ski, painted like Lightning
Lightning
McQueen.
McQueen.
Yes, yeah.
dude, yes. Oh my
Please.
God, please.
Please.
Wearing the
Ka-chow,
lightning, the
ka-chow.
lightning,
I did
lightning
see a
McQueen
meme.
Crocs. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Inject
did
that
see a meme
directly
where,
into my
where
veins.
he was
Give it to me.
driving Lightning McQueen in that same scene as him. The pizza car was Lightning
Wow.
McQueen.
That's hilarious.
He does in the show. He did say like how, and it really sounded like wow, and I was
Mm.
satisfied.
You were like,
Yeah.
Like
Jaden,
how?
I agree. More
How?
secrets than lies. That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. Yeah, I think there's
Yes.
still secrets that we
Yeah.
have yet to be uncovered about what.
Oh, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
We
thought
can't
you were
pretend like
saying
we
he was
know
being- Did you
everything.
think he was being deceptive?
No,
Oh,
not
okay.
at all. I just think he knew explicitly that he was so. Before you jumped in, we talked about the apple of discord, like
Mhm.
causing Trojan War. Like I think him eating that apple was
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's obviously also Eden, like chaos entering the perfect garden. But like it's he knows that he's stirring shit, and he's literally like playing with people's lives. But he's like, let's just see
Yeah.
what happens, you know.
Right.
And I'm not into that bioethically.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was
Gotcha.
great. Like he really
He was.
did create the most appealing character. I'm so
Yeah.
ready to see
But
more
it's gonna
out
be
of him.
cool to see his range because I don't know how much they're gonna go into that multiple versions of Kang thing. but I
Talked
feel like they
about that a
will
little.
go into
We
that.
At
talked
least
about
two.
that a little.
At
Yeah.
least two.
At
versions.
least two. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get an Iron
We
Lad.
talked a lot. You know, the
Very
two things
cool.
come to mind for me immediately.
Iron
we talked,
Lad, I think, is
we
very
talked
likely.
earlier about like Tatiana Maslany and Orphan Black, who was the most convincing at playing like more than 30 characters, and they were so distinct. The opposite extreme would be like Eliza Dushku in Dollhouse. I don't know if anyone saw that. It's a Joss Whedon show. But where they have their mind, basically she and several
Joss.
other characters have their minds wiped regularly and sort of Matrix style implanted with new personalities, new skills. And there were multiple very good actors on this show, Joss Whedon regulars. Eliza Dushku, unfortunately, does not have the range to pull it off. And the show was a fascinating concept that ultimately fell flat because all of her different personalities were basically just her. So, there's like that versus Tatiana Maslany, who was absolutely unrecognizable as these different, well, not unrecognizable. She was playing clones who were identical to each other, but who were the most distinct characters I've ever seen on film, even when like 5 of them were in the scene together. So like, where in that range are we going to see Jonathan Majors? Like, how many variants that actually look like him are we going to get to play? And how many might look? We've seen Loki as a freaking alligator. Like, are there other Kang, He Who Remains, Immortus variants that just like are, I don't know.
I heard that Chris Hemsworth voiced Throg, by the way. Just want that I
Oh yeah.
Which makes me happy.
So wait,
anyways,
to start to kind of like wrap things up, I've been thinking about like how this is the 3rd show in a row. Somebody mentioned how we've had 21 episodes of Marvel now this year, of a Marvel show. That's amazing. I think that was Brent who said that. Yeah. But like in general, now there are so many little threads now that we've started that are like, now I'm like, when's that gonna come up again? So like Monica Rambeau, that's one. Tommy and Billy,
that's the Marvels.
Yeah, I know, but I just mean like there's so many different things now that have
popped up. No, I know. Yeah,
like Sharon Carter is now the power broker, and Val Contessa, and we also have Yelena, right, from Black Widow.
Yelena and John Walker.
We'll see here.
Sylvie and Loki and
we'll
Kang.
see her this year.
Hammer, I swear.
Yeah. So Yelena's coming back.
We'll see
in
Yelena
Hawkeye.
this year. Yeah.
Yelena's gonna be in Hawkeye.
Yeah, she's coming back in Hawkeye. She's going after Hawkeye. That's where she was sent at the end of Black Widow.
Yeah. Well, they're going to be like they're going to be pitted against each other, but then obviously they're going to have to.
My hope for that is that we're going to get sort of a Wanda Maximoff story out of her, where she goes after him and then has to like re-examine her allegiances. I'm hoping.
Oh no, yeah,
because I love that character and I want.
But also, is there a slight implication that Yelena and John Walker, since they're like colleagues
now,
the
connection with Val,
is that are John Walker and Yelena gonna have a like adventure together now, where they have to?
Well, it's
I think they're building a team.
Yeah, they're building a team.
Not to mention, Baron Zemo is on the raft, full of
there you
coward villains, right? Like that's whom he hates because he wants no. Like, I don't know. There's like a whole
Bucky's gonna be White Wolf.
Possibilities there. We got the White Wolf.
Yeah. So that's pretty much
Agatha
he
Harkness
is White
will
Wolf,
certainly be back,
but even though he wasn't
she
called
was everyone's favorite character, like ever. So they're definitely gonna bring her
like
back.
in the end title card.
We've got White Christian out there.
Well, I mean, in the show they call him White Wolf.
Yeah, no, they did, but I think. At least
Io name checked it at some point. She was like, "Okay, White Wolf" or whatever. At some point,
No, it was confusing for me at the end of that title card, but they explained.
Does Multiverse also offer the opportunity for like a random like Robert Downey Jr. cameo or like a?
I doubt it. I really doubt it.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise? What?
Oh, you haven't heard about this?
What?
You haven't heard about this? All the different versions of actors who were almost going to play the characters, like Emily Blunt as
Black Widow.
As Black Widow.
Oh, so
John
it's like
Krasinski,
an Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
They're going to, they're going to appear in.
That would be great.
Strange. That is a long time.
Has anybody seen that movie, The Imaginarium?
You could get some
Dr.
great
Parnassus?
Marvel humor out of that too. Just for like the breaking the fourth wall of us being aware of like, oh my God, it's Tom Cruise, it's whoever.
Right.
What did you say, Jenny?
Has anyone seen them? It's a Terry Gilliam movie, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
With yes, unfortunately I have.
Very young Andrew Garfield. It's not Terry Gilliam's best movie by any stretch of the imagination. But what happened was that Heath Ledger died partway through filming the movie. He's the main character of the movie. And so what they ended up doing, it's a movie where they go into this like mirror world, this like fantasy world. And so what ended up happening was that Terry Gilliam called all the other actors who he had considered for the role and said, each one of you is going to be in like one of the fantasy scenes, like each time. So it was Jude Law, Colin Farrell, and Johnny Depp, who each got to play like a version of Heath Ledger in the fantasy world, which narratively makes sense, but also they had to rearrange a lot of stuff at the last minute because literally the actor died and they still wanted to finish the movie. So it's like an effect like that.
Oh no, I think I did see this movie.
So wait, hey Johnny, last week we were talking about how like Hera and Omega have now interacted. Like that's 100% we're getting them in they're gonna reunite now. Like
there is a future.
Now after this week where it's like it is 100%.
It is
they established a relationship between those two.
There is no way.
100% they're gonna
There's no
redo
way.
that.
There's no way they're not gonna do it.
Yeah,
And
It's-
I think I think they're gonna do it in live action eventually. I'm gonna say I do.
They have
I am
to.
strongly. I'm pretty convinced, even just by what they're showing in Bad Batch. Again, obviously, I think
there's Bad Batch season
a
2.
mega story
That's
will,
a possibility.
a mega story will
but-
continue in that. But
Yeah.
I do think she's gonna make
Okay,
it
so-
past COT.
So
make it
Jenny, no, I haven't
whatever we
seen that
see.
movie. What I was thinking of was Mr. Majorium's Wonder Emporium,
Oh, that's
Oh, yeah.
a very different
which
movie.
is very different and
That's
also
a different,
is not good.
not good. That was the Dustin Hoffman one, right?
It was Dustin
Mr.
Hoffman.
Yeah,
What did you
that
say,
was not
Mr.
good.
what?
The
Mr.
Imaginarium is one
Majorium's
of these
Magic
Terry
Emporium.
Gilliam movies that it was like Terry Gilliam trying to do Terry Gilliam. It
Natalie
was almost
Portman's
like
in it.
he got ahead of his
Hmm.
own shtick, and it was not his best film by
I think I
any
saw that in
stretch of the
theaters.
imagination. But it was okay.
2007.
Ledger's final movie, and a very young Andrew Garfield was in it.
Hmm.
It's it's a
Andrew
weird
Garfield
movie to
played
watch. Like,
Spider-Man.
yes,
Wow.
it's a very weird movie to watch while you're stoned sometime.
So actually, now that I'm thinking about, people are still talking about Yelena and John Walker.
Yeah.
We never, because part of Yelena and Val's conversation was Yelena being like, "I need a raise," and then Val being like, "You and me both." Like, we still don't know who Val actually works for.
Allegedly,
Who
the
she answers
government.
to?
Oh yeah, but
Allegedly.
no, but the government isn't sending her after Hawkeye. you
it's
know?
not like Nick, and we know Nick Fury and Val have like a relationship.
It's
Right, and we all in the comics.
But-
There's an entire arc in the comics where she was abducted by Skrulls and replaced.
But whose payroll is she on?
Whose payroll is she on? Which version of
Who do you
Val
think?
is this? Like
Have any
Hydra.
theories?
Hydra?
Do you have any theories?
Isn't
Mike?
she Madam
Okay.
Hydra in the comics?
She
Yeah.
becomes Madam Hydra
Yeah.
at one point.
Because
Now,
if Yelena's gonna have a
It's Madam
conflict
Hydra
of like
too.
re-examining her allegiances, like what would be the reason Val would be? Obviously, we know she seems sketchy, but like, what's the actual story behind her sketchiness?
Agents of
whose
Shield
payroll
had a
is she on?
Madam Hydra storyline, but it existed in like a Matrix-like construct, like a
Agents of Shield is also increasingly more nebulously not canon to the MCU.
yeah, more nebulously as we go. But there are multiple things that have come back up, like the Darkhold or
But obviously,
or
it's a very
Madam Hydra.
different like.
they
Dark
had
Lord.
a Madam Hydra storyline, but even within that, like it would be easy to retcon that because it existed in like a parallel universe of a Matrix type
The
situation.
first like 3 or 4 seasons, you can definitely see it as canon to the MCU. But then,
they were constantly crossing over. There were a lot of shields,
yeah,
Yeah,
etc. And then it
And,
went off in different directions. So
as
my
it
point is
goes,
that,
it's just like
even in terms of headcanon, it's very easy to retcon it because of like the Madam Hydra thing, for instance, happening in a digital world, like in a computer simulation.
I still
So-
can't get over the fact that Gemma Chan has played 2 roles in the MCU.
yeah, that blows
It
my
so
mind a little.
confuses me.
That's weird. I'm like, that's a
It's
little messy.
so weird.
As much as I
Amanda-
love her,
yeah,
and she's
Amanda asked,
wonderful.
and why does Val want to kill Hawkeye?
Yeah, exactly. Who's
Yeah.
telling? Who's giving that command? I mean,
Yeah.
potentially Hydra.
Who wants him
But then
dead?
who cares? Like, who cares about Hawkeye at this point? Is really
Yeah.
the question there.
True.
Like,
Does he even care? Doesn't he want to go back to his family
Yeah.
and
he's
like
just
stop
like, I want to
fighting
go
now?
live on
Yeah.
a farm and chop wood.
Yeah, it's like I just
Why-
watched my
Yeah,
family
I
get
hope
undusted.
it's not.
like-
I hope
just
it's
wants
not
to
a
hang out on
recycle.
Jeremy Renner app, you know?
Yeah, I hope it's
Yeah.
not. I hope it's not a recycle of Hawkeye's kind of storyline throughout the MCU, which has been, oh, I want to retire. Oh, gotta come
Is
back.
it?
No,
up
do
it's-
we
again.
know anything? Is it
Yeah.
gonna do more? Is it gonna go into like the Ronin stuff?
No,
I'm
it's
sorry,
based
the,
on that one comic.
Yeah, I
No, I don't think it
believe
is.
so.
No.
I think it'll definitely reference
My
it.
suspicion,
pretty
and
positive
this
about
is just me and
No.
instinct. I have no actual evidence for this, but my suspicion is that the show's
his,
probably
his
going to
crimes
be
as
more of-
Ronin will
I think
have
it's-
an
Oh.
effect on the story.
think-
But
Hawkeye,
okay,
the
yeah,
show
but
is
it's not going to
probably
show
gonna
the
be
Ronin
about-
time.
Oh no.
I'm just
Okay,
saying,
so
Maybe
Sean
a
Banks says
flashback
it's probably
here and there,
a-
but I don't believe so.
someone whose family that Ronin killed would be the reason
okay.
is paying to have him.
My
off.
suspicion,
True.
is much
Yeah.
like
True,
Black
yeah.
Widow was like marketed as Black Widow starring Scarlett Johansson, but was really Yelena's story and
Yeah.
Yelena's
It's
movie.
Kate Bishop.
I think it's going to be Kate Bishop's show. I think this is really more going to be
Oh,
about
which I'm
introducing
fine
Kate
with
Bishop rather
because
than like
Kate-
focusing
Uh,
No,
on
it's
Haley
that
Yelena.
comic.
Steinfeld
There's like
is
this
the
2014
best.
Hawkeye
Yes.
run that everyone
Yeah.
That is
Gu-
the
Gu-
that is the
Gush is
definitive
about like
Hawkeye
isn't
line.
isn't that
Yes.
what the show was based on? Like isn't that that's what
That's
I've heard the
probably
show
You
is
more-
market
based on?
it, you get people on board
That's
Like
with
what
the
it seems
like
to
they
be
character.
have
the most
like they have
inspiration,
the
yes.
costumes from it. You see the
Yes,
dog
yes,
on set.
that
Like
seems to
it,
be
it looks
the
like
inspiration.
Yeah.
it's
I think you
amazing.
market it and get people on board.
I have
use
not
the
read the story, but
character
I'll
that you
see it.
know, starring the Oscar-winning actor that you know. But I think this is
Right.
really going to be the
Point
case with
being
the show.
though, I referenced that comic because I've done some research into it. That's not like a Ronin thing. So I just like
No,
obviously
I know, but I mean,
I'm saying to Mike because Mike's question was, do you think we'll
Oh.
see that stuff in the
Yeah.
show? And I'm saying no.
Probably
I think
not.
Johnny's right. It'll be referenced, but I don't think we see that at all.
I
Yeah.
think the
also we've
effects-
never seen
effects
the we've
we'll
never
see.
seen the classic Hawkeye costume either, which we've been having a nice run
like
of
with the
so far.
cowl
Maybe
and
Kate
stuff.
will
Like
get
I
it.
don't think. No,
No, isn't,
I-
isn't
we've seen the costumes. There's a costume leak of what Jim Ren is gonna look like.
It looks like the
it's-
comic. It
it's
looks
with
like
that
the
2014 one.
2014
It's
one.
not the
oh,
classic.
okay.
It's not the classic
classic,
you're
yeah.
thinking. Yeah. Even though I would love to see that too. It's just I think it is honestly just way too goofy to pull off
You
in live
think so?
action.
I
I mean,
doesn't he have,
again,
like a yellow
they
bow
pulled
and
off they
arrow?
pulled off Mysterio. So I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was
Yes.
great. That's another example of an actor just like letting it loose. That was
Go
just
trigger
Jake
Johnny.
That was literally Jake Gyllenhaal just being like, "I'm just gonna have fun with whatever shit I'm doing."
liked it. I
he
liked
he was
some of
so
it.
over the top. I thought he was great in that role, and he
Yeah.
was hilariously funny as a villain.
a
Yeah.
little Jim Carrey Riddler, but yes.
A little bit,
Yeah.
but
What's wrong
you
with
know,
that?
But what's wrong with
Mhm.
that exactly?
I guess the
Tom
classic
Mysterio,
Hawkeye
but-
costume is mostly like the
Hey, I
face
live
mask
for
is kind
for
of the-
Billy D. Williams as Gordon or whatever. What is he in? No, he's Harvey Dent. He's
Harvey Dent,
Yeah.
Harvey
which
Dent.
I so
I
wish
guess-
we got to see.
No, in that movie it's Tommy Lee
in
Jones.
the
It's
original
Tommy Lee
Batman. You mean?
Jones.
Yeah, in the original it's
Yeah.
Billy D. Harvey Dent.
Oh, there was some
Yes.
flash set leaks again. My God, that movie's gonna be so sick.
From
What if
Spider-Man.
it's not though? I'm gonna be real
No,
sad.
dude, I
Levi's
Why
like,
not?
"What if
Wait
it
for that
sucks?"
movie.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
really like the man who's making it. The work, his prior.
You
work.
don't?
I mean, it's like
Andy Muschietti? No?
Machete's like it's the second It movie, like the
You
new
need
one.
both.
No,
You
but
need
like,
both.
Should we
Were-
talk
were-
quickly about the
were they
Deadpool-
directorial masterpieces? I don't know.
Oh, you
Yeah,
mean the-
crazy, right?
Deadpool and Korg? Should we talk
Crazy.
about
Deadpool and Korg, yeah.
quickly?
Crazy.
the fact that it was
yeah.
done in reaction style too. I
It's funny.
love.
I
To a
know.
movie that they're both in, which was
Yeah.
They're-
like, that
Wait,
was, it was
did the
so funny.
did Deadpool reference Jedi Jive confirmed?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I
Jedi-
just love how they
Jedi-
kind of like
Jedi Jive
subtly
invented
implied that
reacting.
he has like a
Oh.
Deadpool like YouTube channel where he does reactions.
Right, he's
and
like,
stuff.
welcome
I
to
love
Yeah.
that.
Deadpool reactions, and he's
Yeah.
reacting to himself. And
I
it's
want
the whole
that. Give me
fourth
that.
wall
That
thing
should be
again, but
promo
then he
for
was
Deadpool
like,
3.
Ugh, Ryan
Reynolds,
like,
yeah.
unless he's busy making
Yeah.
one of my movies.
I think the
Ew.
best joke in the whole thing is when he's talking about how Free Guy is like the scraps of the Fox deal, and he's like, "Yeah, this
Yeah.
movie."
He's like Fox and it's Death Row.
He's like, "This
I
is
know,
a,
that
he's a
was-
real
that was-
Death Throws Fox movie here."
Dude, every
know,
single
that
thing that
was-
Ryan Reynolds gets on his channel is like a super well produced, like it's just so well planned.
Mint
and,
Mobile
like,
commercials?
yeah, like every
They
commercial.
all get like a bajillion views.
It's not just Ryan Reynolds himself, obviously, but the people behind his channel are geniuses. The way they put
But
that
like
stuff
the whole
together.
I mean,
thing,
he's one of
it
the
was,
most
like
well-paid
embraced the
actors
Deadpool
on the
fourth
planet.
wall breaking thing, but it also brought in Korg and the fact that they
Mhm.
both happened to be in this completely separate movie. It was a thing of beauty. I thought I was
Yeah,
laughing out loud.
Good
like,
marketing. There's
alone.
this
Really
Snake
good.
Eyes is doing
The,
some
Depp-
marketing
the
right
Deadpool
now.
movie always has had the best marketing.
I just gotta
in my
shout
opinion.
out. There's this Snake Eyes marketing right
Snake
now
Eyes,
with like action figures, and it's like the funniest thing. Like it's actually
What is
really
it?
good stuff. It's like essentially like a robot chicken thing they're doing with action figures.
Oh,
and they're, like,
really?
they're all fighting, and like it's
Oh,
the other
shoot.
GI Joes who are not in the movie, and they're like, "You made it. You made a prequel movie without us," and he's like, "It's an origin story," and they're like fighting, and it's just like, but it's Henry Golding as like this little action figure, and he's voicing it. It's pretty funny, and I was like,
Okay.
That's good
I'll
marketing.
check
I
that
wanna
out.
see the
That's
movie.
Funny.
"This
Yeah.
much more now."
That is funny.
All right, guys, it's
check it out.
4:45. What do you think about wrapping up this stream?
I think
Getting
yeah,
this-
we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
hungry too. And I gotta go to rehearsal.
Yeah.
What do you got? No. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Sean points it out. Yeah, Deadpool is like, I like Dark World. I prefer Dark World. When he's
All right.
talking to Korg, and he's like, I prefer Dark World.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, wait, is Korg's friend actually supposed to be? Did he come back to life, or is he dead still?
Came back.
Meek. What does
Right.
that mean?
Meek, Yeah, where is he like, oh, he's dead.
Mick,
like,
yeah.
Mick, yeah.
Mick.
He's a
Meek.
spider.
Yeah.
Meek.
He's
My
dead.
friend Meek.
You killed Meek.
Friend Meek.
This is my
He's
friend
a
Meek.
ghost.
Yeah, I don't remember anyway. That was fun. Anyway, guys,
Korg
thanks
and
for being here.
Deadpool. Give me,
Yeah,
I
got
give me a
rehearsal.
movie with Korg and
Boys have
Deadpool.
things to do. Everyone's
Well,
hungry.
we've talked before
People
about how like,
have
there's so
stayed.
many characters we want to see interact with Deadpool, like
They
Quill.
already
Quill
killed
and
that little
Deadpool.
commercial.
Can
Yeah.
you imagine?
They already
can you
killed that little
imagine putting,
commercial, so
like,
the potential with Deadpool in the MCU is
I mean,
so
can you
good.
imagine
Chris
having
Pratt
a scene between like Chris
and Ryan
Pratt,
Reynolds.
Chris Hemsworth, and Ryan Reynolds? Put the
Or
two of
even
them?
better, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, and Deadpool.
No, I want to
make it
see
happen.
Chris Pratt,
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth, and Ryan Reynolds just
Yeah,
improvise
total
still
improvise.
rumors
Yeah.
a full
There's still rumors
improvised
about Hugh
scene
Jackman
between
coming
the
back as
three of them.
Wolverine,
That's
and
all I
He
want
posted
in
that thing
my
on his
life.
story the other day with the freaking
I know.
claws.
It was weird. It was weird, and and a picture of him with Kevin Feige. I don't.
I'm glad people. It's crazy to me that people have stuck around watching this stream through the awful frame rate. But thank you.
All right, guys. On that note, we're gonna wrap it up. If you haven't already been over to All New Nerds, guys, go check out the All New Nerds. They are on their journey to 1,000 subscribers. They're only like
Almost.
150 or so
We're
away,
getting-
right? We're getting.
Getting
Do you already have the
Um,
4,000 hours?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go, man. You guys, dude, it's gonna be within a couple months. I'm telling you.
Gotta
It'll
get
be
it.
quick.
Gotta get some. Gotta pump up some video. Pump out some
Pump
videos.
up.
But yes.
Can't wait,
Jam.
dude. And
Pump
when
it
you guys
up.
finally do, we have to do something special. We gotta have some. We have obviously do a live stream.
Have a live party.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Live stream party. Yeah.
And then we'll watch it dip back under 1,000 during the live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll do
I
all
know.
that. I'll
When you
do a
guys hit
dance and we'll do
700,
this.
right? It
Yes.
went back under.
we have theories about what happened.
We hit 700 like
Pun
3 separate
intended.
times.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
700
Yes.
was a rough one.
Levi, John, thank you guys for being here. I'm glad you guys showed up and you are.
Sorry for being late. Yes.
No. We love having you here, man.
Fashionably late.
Yeah, we were rocking out.
But everybody
Thanks
in the
to all
chat,
of our
thanks for the
regular
super
friends.
chats. Yeah, Amanda,
Yeah.
thank you for all of your great commentary. And it was Everett, thank you for your super chat. Mandy, I don't know if you're still there or not. Yeah, I believe you are. Mandy, shout out to you and your family. Really sorry to hear about your dad. We love you. We miss you when you're not here, but you know,
We love you, Mandy. We're like sending all our best Cape Cod
all of our
good vibes
love to you,
to
and we look forward to having you here all the time. Brent, thank you for being here, buddy. Sean,
Dale,
all you guys, yes.
Aurelio, all of our regular friends who are in the chat.
Hey, now Loki's over,
Jaden.
guys. Like I feel like I can actually sleep this week.
No.
No.
Wow.
Nightmares.
This was
Yeah.
before Loki started.
finally
I was like, it was a daunting.
Still a
It's over.
vacuum
Looking
of
forward
my
to this,
life.
but
Yeah.
we still have
It's gonna come right back though, Mike. So
we still have 4 more episodes of Bad Batch. I know it's gonna
Yeah.
come right back, but
it's coming right back.
we live for this.
Give it a couple weeks. Oh! Actually, one more thing. I wanted to mention. I'm very excited about this. They're doing a full documentary episode, a gallery episode on the Luke reveal for the Luke episode for Mando. It's very exciting.
Oh, that's right. So it's gonna be like the special thing. What do they call
yeah,
them?
it's gonna be the full
Gallery.
Gallery,
Disney
yeah, yeah.
gallery.
Gallery featurette things that talking
Because
about
I was
how
confused. I was like, how do they not talk
So
about
when
Is
we're
it going to be
assuming-
talking about the de-aging technology or like
I
talking
think
about
so.
how
All
they
of
aged
it.
I would
it?
assume,
And that'll
yeah.
Cool.
Presumably Mark Hamill will be all over that, which is awesome.
I hope.
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Apparently he was on
Mark
set. so,
Hamill, by the way, this is like one of the most remarkable.
Hashtag
like,
free Britney.
Hashtag he tweeted hashtag free Britney, and
It's
I'm
so
like,
funny.
the pop culture world that just collided. Like my head.
Yeah.
I know.
Amazing.
I feel like
but
I made
it-
a funny tweet about it.
But, like,
Remarkable
realistically,
meta
like,
moment.
free Britney, that shit
But
is
also,
fucked up.
Yeah, hashtag free Britney for real. But like, what
Yes.
an incredible moment in pop culture.
Thank you guys for watching. Hashtag
Yes.
free
All right,
Britney.
Mike. Yeah. All right.
We love you guys.